Okay. Okay, I'll post this on Twitter too. Okay, here we go. We are live now. Hello everyone. How are you guys doing today? Hey, Wasabi Guy, Ricky, Hustler, Sayak, Pickle, the random guy, Abidjot, Christopher, Tom's Train Vlogs. Hey guys, Max, April and Makarov Bunny. Hey everyone, what's up? Javi, Menace, Volan, Pikachu. I'm good. How are you guys doing today? Hey Chaz, Tactical Ruse, Ryan. It is, well, I'm visiting family right now, so I'm on the East Coast. It's 11:12 right now. Yeah, we're gonna do a Christmas Eve stream this week coming up. Thank you for the super chat, Alvinor. Do I think tariffs would wreak the havoc on the price of electronics? I don't know. The thing I will say about it is the one thing I will say about this is that there are people who there are many countries out there, and a lot of these countries that are out there already have tariffs on U.S. products. So a lot of people actually don't know that. Thank you for the super chat, Alvinor. The Darkness game, I want to play it one day. I don't follow the Mr. Beast stuff. We're gonna do San Andreas 100% on Christmas Eve. Drop that like, everyone. Thank you. Sniper Elite V2 is a great game. It'll probably be somewhere like midday afternoon when I start it up. Michael Hollick, the guy who played as Nico, oh, he got into a contract dispute with Rockstar. He wanted to get paid more for his role after the game sold so well, but Rockstar refused. Oh, whoa. No, I haven't. Menace, what is that? Hey, Tommy, what's this about here?
Okay, let's talk. Have I got a proposal for you? Got a fresh map here? It's a tricky one, but I'm sure you can figure it out. Smart person like you. I bet you like a challenge, especially one that'll make you
Okay, yeah. You can just take the treasure map, too. Next Yakuza part will be tomorrow. Yeah, I know that bad gamer. That Michael Hollick did voice Nico. He got paid 100,000, but he didn't expect the game to sell as well as it did. And when it sold like really well, he wanted more money, and Rockstar refused. Okay, I'll see you, Tactical. Take care, man. Hey, Golden. Did you hear about that ridiculous theory about the merch the devs got and how it's supposed to be a hint to Trailer 2? Yeah, I heard about that, that it's like, it's some coordinates to like some place in Florida, and there's like a car dealership with the number 27 on it. I heard about that. Honestly speaking, I don't really believe it. If it is true, then okay, but it's like, I don't go in that whole speculation stuff. I really don't. I'm just not into that stuff. I will say this though, is that if it turns out to be real, I'll say, okay, you know, you guys did a good job, but if it turns out to be fake and it's nonsense and absolutely nothing happens on the 27th, then I'm basically gonna laugh at all the people that were believing it and the people who constantly kept making videos about it. That's what I'll say about it. So if it is there, I'll admit that I was wrong. But if it's if nothing happens, then I'll also laugh at it. Because I personally think that it's a bit ridiculous. I just don't do videos on stuff like that because I just don't I'm just not into that stuff. I'm not into that whole speculation stuff. And I will say that, like, Rockstar, hey Void, what's up? Like, you know, like, when you really think about it, like, really like a, like, that kind of leak, like, something like that. Well, there's this new GTA leak supposedly happening. Hi, Pro Productions. You know what I'll do? I'll actually ask chat here. I'll ask chat what chat thinks. Let's see here. How do I do a poll in the chat again? Oh, here it is. Start a poll. Okay. Let's see. And I'll tell you something. If December 27th rolls around, right, and nothing happens, well, a lot of YouTubers are gonna start saying January 27th. I just posted a poll, guys. Can you vote on that? It's in the chat. Could everybody vote in that? I just want to see how a chat thinks. And don't vote however you think. Don't be, like, swayed by my words. Vote however you think. I want to know what chat thinks. Okay, we got 65 votes. Come on, let's get it up to 100. Can we get it to 100? 74 votes now, 75. Come on, keep voting, guys. Let's get it to 100 votes on here. The poll I just posted. Hey, Pro, how's you doing? Oh, your grandma, you had your grandma's funeral. I'm sorry to hear that, Grifter kids. You have my condolences, man.
Enjoy your last moments alive.
Thank you for the super chat. I'm sorry about your grandma. I hope everything goes good, DL Gaming, for your Overdrive series. Okay, so the poll is saying overwhelmingly no. It's probably gonna be another Mafia family, Mr. Jesus. That's probably who's gonna be the antagonist in the next Mafia game. It might even turn out to be your boss. Your boss might turn out to be the antagonist. You know, Falcone was the main antagonist in Mafia 2, and he was your boss. So we got 113 votes right now, and it's no for 81%. But I will also tell you guys something. If Rockstar did actually hide the trailer release date for GTA 6 with that, like, I think that's honestly one of the dumbest ways to actually hide the trailer. No, the poll's still open. We're at 125 votes. What are my thoughts on Majima? Majima seems, Kiryu seems like a good guy at heart. He's very serious, has no time for nonsense. Majima is way more, I would say, manipulative and cunning. I wouldn't necessarily say he's a bad person, but he's just more, manipulative, cunning. Okay, I guess I'll end the poll here because it's getting a little hard for me to see the chat. But 79%, 80% say that they don't believe that the leak is, a real. Yeah, I don't follow the whole leaks. You know what I'm probably gonna do? I'll probably do a video on that trailer thing on Monday. That's probably what I'll do. I'll probably do a video on it on Monday. But I don't really believe it. I'll just probably give a video giving my thoughts on it, but I don't know if they're gonna announce the next trailer, Chaz. They might just make it a random day. I don't think they're gonna give a hint, because the last time they announced a trailer day, they got hacked. So I don't think that they're, gonna announce their trailer date. Happy Friday and Holidays, Pro, in chat. You're all awesome. Thank you, Bunny. Thank you for the super chat, man. I think it just might be a troll. I don't think it's, I don't think it's real. I'm not sure on that top, I will play Ready or Not sometime next year. I just don't know when, but I will do a video on it, Who is the most successful gang in the GTA 3D universe? Probably the San Fierro Triads, yeah. Probably the San Fierro Triads Pro Productions. They really had no disasters, when you really think about it. They really didn't. I stopped drinking soda, like, probably more than 8 years ago at this point. Hey, Professional, I'm new to your channel and just started watching your videos. Totally dig your channel. Thank you, Gallic Guns. It's Suspect 13. Real name is Avil. Happy holidays. Oh, thank you, Avil. Thank you. I'll be sure to remember that. Well, the San Fierro Triads are a bunch of different gangs put together, but, Mountain Cloud Boys are just one of them. What do you mean, Zach? Well, you shouldn't go crazy with if it's a YouTube channel that you're just doing for fun, you shouldn't go crazy. If you do it on your own time, whenever you have time, don't feel rushed. Don't feel the need to push yourself. Yes, I can invite you after this, Brandon. Mountain Cloud Boys, Red Gecko, Bloodfeather, yep. Hey, Arsenal, glad seeing you play Red Dead Online. Also, did you hear about Microsoft is going to be transferring all their Xbox games to PS5? Really? They are, Mitchell. Really?
Well,
how is that going to work out? Wait, so if Microsoft is going to transfer all their games to PlayStation, does that mean that we'll finally get State of Decay on PlayStation? Because that's a game I've always wanted to play. Worst GTA Online weapons from each category? The worst pistol in GTA Online is probably the Marksman pistol, because it's just one shot and you're going to reload it for some time. The worst sniper rifle in GTA Online is that that terrible bolt-action rifle that was added like 2 years ago. I even forget its name because it's a forgetful weapon. The worst assault rifle, I don't know, maybe the standard AK, but even that upgraded mark is pretty good. All the assault rifles are good. The worst SMG in GTA, GTA Online. Oh, it's precision rifle, sophistry. Okay, what is the worst SMG in GTA Online? The micro SMG? I don't know. Even the micro SMG with an extended mag is pretty good too, so I don't know, really. There's no really bad SMG in the game. The rifle, the musket doesn't really count as a rifle. It's more like a special weapon. And the musket can take down Oppressor Mark II Griefers and auto-aim. I think the worst shotgun in GTA Online is probably a double-barreled shotgun. School done, voice recording, active crunch mode. And I'm gonna start voice recording soon, Blinded Eagle. I'm sorry, I've just had a lot of stuff come up recently, but I'm gonna start voice recording soon for our project together. And I also recorded my channel update, which I'll probably post either tonight or tomorrow. And I mentioned our video too. Could you do an April Fool's video on whatever happened to Michael's boat? Oh man, that would be You know what I think? You know what I think will be even better than that? What I think will be even better than that? Doing a April Fool's video on what happened to CJ's bag. I don't know if anyone else asked. It's like you know what I would title the video? I'd be like, what happened to CJ's bag? GTA San Andreas lore explained. I don't know if anyone else or I could do what happened to Mom's blender? GTA San Andreas lore explained. I don't know if anyone else asked this before. Please do more Red Dead Redemption character analysis videos soon. I think we'll all love them, especially in Micah, Arthur, Cornwall, etc. If I do another one, I probably will do it either on Cornwall or on Strauss. On either one of those. Thank you, Sayek, for the super chat. It just those videos are just very hard to make because there's a lot of cutscenes to include and break it all down. But next year I want to do a playthrough of Red Dead Redemption again, and if I do it, I probably would include a character analysis on another character. Who's the worst written GTA antagonist in the 3D universe? Massimo in GTA Liberty City Stories. You did say next would be Micah in the last video. Yeah, I could do Micah as well. Micah would be very challenging to do too. Oh, you made a donation? I'm sorry, Eternus. Let me look. Are you doing anything special this Christmas? Yeah, we're gonna do a charity stream on Christmas Eve, and we'll play GTA San Andreas. We'll go for 100%. Is Arma Reforger any good? Yeah. Just here's the thing: is if you're gonna play Arma Reforger, have friends, because if you don't have friends, it's gonna be really boring. So that's what I'll say about Arma Reforger. If you have friends, it's a game worth getting. And also remember, this is a mill sim, so don't expect, you know, chaotic Call of Duty style action. Yakuza 0 is going pretty good. Pray something happens on December 27th. Well, we don't know that yet, Omni Kenny. We're gonna see. You have to communicate a lot in Arma, yes. Communication is key in Arma. Also, when you test Uno, play with these house rules. 7-0, jump in, stacking, no bluffing, and draw to match. As for the deck lock up gameplay, the 50th anniversary deck, because that's what we're gonna play. Okay, Blinded Eagle. Thank you for the super chat, dude. I'll definitely make sure to test it before we play.
Oh, it's you. You did all right with that last job. This valley just ain't the same. Used to be just Watson's here. Watson's and Bears. And then the Russells showed up. And then the Mahonies. And that's a bridge too far. You gonna send them clodhoppers on their way, ain't you? They got all their goods piled up in Little Creek. You go over there and clear them out. Watson's will make it right for you.
Why are you streaming so late? I just didn't have time earlier to stream, but I always want to stream on Fridays too. Oh, I haven't attempted the pistol challenge yet in GTA. Yeah, and I was thinking about doing the Indiana Jones, the new Indiana Jones game, because it shows Italy, and also China during the Japanese invasion. So that's like, you usually don't see Italy in a lot of you know, World War II games, and also the Japanese invasion of China. I don't think I've ever seen the Japanese invasion of China in a World War II game, actually, now that I think about it, yeah. Getting better with free aim. Okay, let's leave one of the crates. Okay, leave the other crate for a little bit now. Would you make a lore video on who broke the goddamn wheel, Red Dead Redemption lore explained, or what bugs Michelle about her mother's jewelry, L.A. Noire explained? I remember that. I remember that line. That line. That's from the homicide cases in L.A. Noire. When you accuse people of lying, some of the things you accuse them of is really funny. Like, why don't you tell the truth, Michelle? Something really bugs you about your mother's jewelry. And the thing is, when you look at Cole's actor, he's actually smiling in that part. He's trying to hold in a laughter. Like, because he knows how stupid the questions are. I played Red Dead Redemption 2 after seeing your videos. Began December 23rd, ended September 24th. First game in life. I 100% on first run just to get the end scene. John at Arthur's grave. Thank you, Sayek. Red Dead Redemption 2 is a masterpiece, and I can't imagine that they put so much content in just one game like that. Like, that's the amount of activities the game has, the amount of side things in the world has, it's just insane. The amount of interactions it has. They really worked overtime on that project. You ever experienced burnout? Of course, I think everyone does. December 27, mark your calendar, the cat's out of the bag. Well, Funk, I'm not trying to be a downer, but we don't know 100% that something's going to be posted on that day. Like, I'm not trying to be a downer, guys, but we just don't know 100% that something's going to be posted on that day. Do you think the Swedish Empire is one of the toughest adversaries Poland has fought against and won its history? Swedish Empire, yes. Swedish Empire burned a lot when they invaded Poland. Częstochowa was one place that had survived many battles and is considered a holy site in Poland because of that today. Do you know that a treasure map is absent in Red Dead Redemption 2 Ultimate Edition that is present in the base edition? That I did not know, Sayek. Oh, feed your horse. Oh, I didn't know that, Sophistry. I'll do this right now.
Do you feel like dying today?
It's going good gaming with Ant-Man. Oh, I'm sorry, Brandon. I'll invite you right after this. Why did Johnny Sack not tell Tony about Polly? Because there was really no purpose in it, and it would make Tony paranoid knowing that that he had an informant in the gang. So it did more damage. Not there was really no incentive for Johnny to help Tony.
You ain't supposed to be here. Who's there? Let me see you. The hell are you doing? Get out! Just what in the hell are you doing here? You better leave or I'll move you. You're as good as dead. Enough, damn it! Let's get out of here. I'll make you suffer.
Well, I will also tell you this is Poland has a history of its allies actually backstabbing it throughout history. Like a lot of people don't know this, that Poland actually had a military alliance with Prussia when the Russian Empire had actually invaded, which Prussia was the largest German state, and the alliance basically was that if Prussia gets attacked, Poland comes to its aid, and if Poland gets attacked, Prussia comes to its aid. But what happened was, when Russia invaded, Prussia didn't actually honor that, and what they did was they just divided up Poland with Russia. So they actually invaded and took over parts of Poland. And the same thing with Austria. It was Poland. Poland had basically saved Austria from an Ottoman invasion, Ottoman conquest. And how did Austria thank Poland? Well, 100 years later, what they did to thank Poland for that was that they annexed southern Poland. No, I know about Tony Blundetto, too. That's Tony Soprano's cousin, Jay. You know, he killed, Phil's brother. Do you think Carmine Jr. was a mastermind or was incompetent? I think it was more he was incompetent. I think people are going too much into it thinking he was this genius that was playing both sides. Why did Italy leave the Central Powers? Because Austria-Hungary controlled parts of land that Italy considered theirs, and so there was no incentive for them to stay in the Central Powers.
Nowhere else. Good to see you back.
What do you think about Sobieski as ruler of the Commonwealth? Well, Sobieski is the most known for the miracle at Vienna where he defeated the Ottoman army. So, Sobieski did do a good job stopping the Ottomans, but one thing that he really sucked at is, he was terrible when it came to giving peasants rights. And, like, when peasants actually revolted, he violently cracked down on the peasants. Instead of going after the aristocrats, they were abusing the peasants. Pro, what country has been taken as a joke or looked down on the longest? France. France, there are so many people that make fun of France and they think that that the French can't fight wars, but a lot of people actually don't know this, that France actually has more military victories than any country in Europe. So if you like, I'm pretty sure it's France. Let me just Google this here. What country has the most military victories? It says France, here. France has won the most battles of any country in European history. Well, yeah, because there was nothing for them to gain in that sophistry. What other European countries have been invaded a lot throughout history besides Poland? Greece, all the Balkan countries, Sicily. Well, Sicily's part of Italy today, but still it got historically invaded a lot. I don't know much about him, Gunner. What's the one game you gained 100% completion? I gained 100% completion on a lot of games. What do you mean, God's Child? Have I heard of the game 50 Cent Blood in the Sand? Of course, I beat it. I played it a lot back in the day. I never played on the channel, but I'm going to. Phil Leotardo is the worst boss in The Sopranos, completely incompetent.
Oh, hellfire.
Yeah, 4,500 gold in Reddit Online. Wow. That's impressive. No, I never played Black on the PS2, but I know the game you're talking about. It's the game with all the bullets in the cover. Every empire was evil in history, Gunner. Some empires are worse than others, much worse than others, but every empire is evil. There's no such thing as a good empire.
Pork, venison, all right here, folks. Oh, shit, not again.
Phil Leotardo has the ability to turn his body into a house, show the man respect. I know what you're talking about. That scene where you don't see Phil and it's the house and he's just yelling at them. My favorite video game creation team, well, it used to be Rockstar, but they did a lot of things that went wrong, and now I really don't have one, I would say. I would have said Volition, but then Volition also gave us a Saints Row reboot, which that was a disaster. Why did Agent Harris like Tony in the end? I guess Tony was more friendly with him, and it was kind of like Agent Harris was from New Jersey and Tony was from New Jersey, so it was kind of like rooting for his team. Yeah, but unfortunately, Zip is they will never make Saints Row 2. They will never remake it. It's never gonna happen, unfortunately. Well, the Majima introduction was definitely something else. I've never seen something like that. The most evil king in history? Oh, that's gonna be really hard. In history? Specifically a monarchy. Maybe Genghis Khan, but Genghis, if you asked Genghis Khan, he probably would not consider himself a monarchy. He would more consider himself a warlord. So if we don't factor in Genghis Khan, probably... Oh, it's a tough one. The most evil monarch in history. Ivan the Terrible was really bad. He was probably Russia's most evil king. It was, Ivan the Terrible, maybe the worst in Russia. In the Eastern Europe, Ivan the Terrible. The most evil in, the most evil one in, well, there's also Vlad the Impaler. He was also extremely brutal. Maybe King Leopold of Belgium. He was also the most evil. He was the most evil Western European monarch. He was the worst one. No, that's just a reference, Ivan the Terrible, to it's a real life monarch, but that mission is just named after him, Arthur. But, oh, Henry, the guy who killed his wives because the Pope wouldn't give him a divorce, that guy? Well, Hitler wasn't considered a monarchy, he was a dictator. Yes, Belgium had a human zoo, that was true. They're people that they kidnapped from their colonies and they put them in a zoo. It was horrible. They had kids in there, it's horrible. Belgium did stuff like that. Belgium murdered over 1 million Congo people. It was just, they were just, yeah, the Belgians were extremely brutal in their colonies. I will also tell you guys this. Do you know what king is also very evil, but a lot of people actually don't consider him evil, is, Peter the Great. A lot of people think Peter the Great was a nice guy, but Peter the Great was a psychopath. He was not a nice man at all. Peter the Great, when he had people killed, he had their bodies just dumped in the middle of the street, and he refused to let anybody clean it up. So if you tried to clean up like a body of somebody that was dead in the street, he'd have you killed for it. The bodies were supposed to remain on the streets to be like a message towards anybody that would go against him. Also, about Peter the Great, is his son actually went against him. When Peter the Great was bringing a lot of reforms into Russia, his son went against him. And what happened was, when Peter the Great won that conflict, his son fled to Finland, and his son had lived in Finland. A few years after that, Peter the Great actually sent his son a letter telling him, like, you know, all is forgiven, you are my son, I want you to come back to Russia, you will be safe here, you have my word, you know, we can be a family again. His son comes back to Russia, he doesn't keep his word. He has his son arrested, tortured, and on top of that, executed. And not only did he have his son executed, he had the priest who read him his last rites executed as well. So that's like what I will say about Peter the Great. It's not Peter the Great, it's Peter the Psychopath. That's what I call him. And in Russia, St. Petersburg is named after Peter the Great when he was like a complete psychopath. You never show emotion. No, I'm emotional. I guess I just don't laugh or I take things extremely seriously, but I have emotions. How did Finland not get conquered by Russia? They did actually get conquered by Russia, but they regained their independence after during the Russian Civil War, and the communists then tried to stage a revolution in Finland. They failed, and then the Soviet Union invaded Finland during the Winter War. And while Finland ultimately lost that war, the Soviet Union wasn't able to fully conquer Finland.
You come at me with any bloody mistletoe, I'll shoot you in your teeth. All right then.
Hate killing.
Well, that's just fine, because I've got something you will like. Being the angel of vengeance. Look, it's a filthy job, but someone has to do it. These bastards need killing, they do. And for the killing, you need professionals. So I thought of you as being well suited.
Well, thank you for thinking me as a professional.
That's a compliment, so feel free to smile. It's a bunch of bastards and
the most successful pirate in history, Edward Thatch or Blackbeard.
And killed an acquaintance of mine, so vengeance must be sought. And you're the seeker. On my behalf. He was a nice fella, Scottish lad he was. Left a widow and 2 wee kiddies he did. Yeah, real shame.
Well, I typically like characters that have like a serious attitude, like Aiden Pierce, Gunner. I don't like the characters that like joke around. Are you still having the channel update video? Yes. That is gonna be either tonight or tomorrow, Ephelist. It's gonna be either tonight or tomorrow. It's done, I just have to edit it. But it's gonna be a video, basically, me talking about, like, working closing shifts in retail. It's, like, gonna be, like, a part 2 to that part 1 video I made, but more talking about, yeah, closing shifts. I love these Reddit online streams. Thank you, Ryan. Do I have a favorite film based on a true story? My favorite film that's based on a true story, maybe The Great Escape. That one was a good one. I thought Sean died in Rhodes. He did, but Reddit Online takes place beforehand. Are we gonna get an upload for Yakuza 0? It'll be tomorrow. I just don't know if it's gonna be early, but it'll be tomorrow. Oh, Midway. Midway was also really good. Yeah, Midway was another good one. Yeah. That was another one that was based on a true story that was good, too. Oh, no, Zach. Doing so would have disappointed his father because he did everything to keep his son alive. So he wouldn't have ever done that. Yeah, that is true, Skooma. Austria did betray Poland. Poland helped them defend Vienna from the Ottomans, and then 100 years later, they took over southern Poland.
Whatever is happening there needs to stop.
Oh, wrong person. Now I got it. Okay. Hey, don't be shooting at me. I knifed the wrong person. It was an accident. Why didn't Tony kill Polly on the boat in of Miami? Because Tony didn't have 100% proof that that Polly was behind telling Johnny Sack. He had suspicions, but he didn't know 100%. Okay, don't kill this last guy just yet. No, I haven't, Mr. Hopkins. I don't think it was necessary. What I will tell you is the dumbest thing that Mo Green did in The Godfather wasn't that he refused to sell to Michael Corleone. That wasn't the dumbest thing he did. The dumbest thing he did was when he told Michael Corleone, "I made a deal with Barzini. He said I can still keep my casino." Like that was the worst thing he did when he said, "I made a deal with Barzini." That was the stupidest thing he did. He said that directly to Michael. That was pretty much signing, because the thing is, Mo could have still gotten out of that alive. But when he basically said that, "I made a deal with Barzini," that was pretty much it. That was Michael just saying, "He's dead." That's it. He's dead. Today's the shortest day on Earth, winter solstice. It is? Huh. Now, Mr. Shakedown scares me. I'm scared to lose all my money again. Oh, I didn't see it, Razu. Oh, and let me invite Brandon too. I gotta invite Brandon. I keep forgetting to invite Brandon. Brandon, I'm sorry. Any space? No, Sophistry, because we're gonna have Brandon in here, and that's gonna be 6 players. But after somebody leaves, I can invite you. Well, the government is making a massive mistake that they're not telling people more about the drones, explaining what's going on exactly. It's pissing people off, and it's making people nervous. What trophy do you need help with, Kurt? The weird thing about the drones is I don't think the government has actually explained what the drones are. The government just keeps saying they're not a threat, but it's not explaining what the drones are. Which, how can you tell the public the drones aren't a threat when you're not going to explain what they are? No, those drones are too big to be police drones. Those are government drones. Some of those drones are like the size of cars. The police don't have drones like that. Why was Torino in San Andreas posing as a drug dealer? Well, he was a drug dealer, technically, but he was trying to raise money for the CIA so that they could fund the Contra rebels in Nicaragua. Why do the Mangano and Almeida families have, like, 3 underbosses in the Godfather 2 games? Are they insane or incompetent? I think both. It didn't make sense. I think they just did that just so there was more targets to kill, but there was no way a gang would have 3 underbosses. That makes no sense. The Philippines were devastated during World War II. They were conquered in early 1942 and held on to for 3 years. There's 3 years of brutal occupation. The Japanese occupied the Philippines during World War II. Can you point out the smartest and dumbest thing that Joe Barbaro did in Mafia 2? The dumbest thing he did was shooting up the Chinese restaurant. The smartest thing he did... I have to think about that one. Tracking down the rat in the Joe's Adventure DLC. Do you know what the Volkssturm was? Yes, it was a civilian militia that the Nazis had drafted at the end of World War II when they got desperate. Are there any funny stories about the school that you'd like to tell? About school that I can tell? I don't know. I can't really think of any at the moment. I hope you expose Inside Edition. They're terrible. Thank you, GJ. Yeah, Inside Edition does a lot of clickbait. A lot of false stuff that they post. The dumbest thing Trevor has done in GTA 5? I have to think about that one. Maybe starting a war with everyone. Constantly pissing off Merryweather? Yeah. Oh yeah, Joe brought Marty along for the hit on Clemente. I forgot about that too, yeah. Forgot to mention last time, but there's a remake of Half-One Life called Black Mesa. You could do that if you wanted to, or put it to a poll. I've never actually played the Half-Life games. I know they're very popular. And I know people have been requesting a 3rd game, but Valve has never made it. Yeah, he kidnapped Patricia. That was also a stupid one. Yeah, that is true, Skooma, but I think it was more because Austria was their enemies. I could do a Yakuza lore video, maybe, but I haven't played the other Yakuza games, so it'd be very difficult for me to make a lore video on Yakuza 0, when I think it'll be very important to play the other Yakuza games to understand some of the characters, because I know it's a prequel, but it would, I have to play the other games also. Yeah, Trevor killing Johnny sucked. Arthur, it did. I think that probably has to go down as the worst GTA moment of all time, is when Trevor killed Johnny. I don't really have a favorite boxer. Well, they are the Inside Edition are basically the paparazzi. That's what they are, pretty much, GJ. How do you like Majima's intro, The Customer's King? Well, that was something, that was something else. That was a crazy intro. Wait, you're getting off, Brandon? Who was requesting to join first, Sophistry or Razu? Sophistry, are you here too? I just want to be fair to everyone. Who was requesting first to join? Was it Razu or Sophistry? We have spot for one more person, but who was requesting to join first? Does anybody know? Razu was requesting to join first? Okay, I know both of you guys are requesting to join. Okay, so I guess I'll invite Razu here, and then Sophistry, if you're still here, when the next person leaves, I'll invite you after Razu, because these, private sessions that we do can only hold 6 players. The worst thing that Japan did during World War II, oh man, there's a giant list of that. Nanking, I think the single worst thing that Japan did during World War II was probably the Nanking massacre. That was probably the single worst event that they did. That was they murdered over 200,000 civilians in 2 weeks. That was probably the single worst thing they did. But they have, like, the Japanese have an entire list of horrible things they've done. So many bad things they've done. I'm curious to hear more of your thoughts on why Trevor killing Johnny is the worst moment in GTA history. Can you go more into that? They took a character that was a complete badass in GTA 4 and just basically turned him into a meth addict. It was horrible. It was like a complete disservice to that character, and like when you play The Lost and Damned, like it basically makes you feel like crap for going back to The Lost and Damned, and you feel like, what's the point of playing this? Like, that's what you basically think. Like, what's the point of playing this DLC now? I'm new here. Been enjoying Yakuza and World at War series. Thank you. How do I read your name, by the way? That's Asian text, right? What language is that? How do I read your name?
Cockless pile of shit!
Hayao Miyazaki strongly condemns Japanese war crimes. Who? Hayao Miyazaki?
Untie me or else!
Oh, he's a,
Oh my God!
Japanese animator. He was actually born during World War II. But that's, the thing is, though, is that a lot of older people like him usually are not going to admit to war crimes. They're usually going to deny it. So I'm actually surprised that you have a really older guy like that that's admitting to the horrible things Japan did. But it's good that he admits to the bad stuff that they've done.
Oh my god.
I'm from Japan. My name is Toshia. Oh, okay. Did you see my Yakuza? Are you watching my Yakuza videos, Toshia?
Burn in hell!
It's usually the younger people that are more open to history and are willing to question their elders on it.
I ain't done with you!
What do I choose? San Andreas or Saints Row 2? Saints Row 2. But Toshia, you gotta tell me though, have you watched my Yakuza videos? You say you're from Japan. Have you seen my Yakuza videos?
Oh my god.
Yes, I found your channel from Yakuza. I went back to see the World at War series. I really enjoyed the history speeches. Thank you. Thank you for that. I also did another World War II game that takes place in the Pacific. I don't know if you ever heard of Medal of Honor Pacific Assault. I also did that one. That one I did as well. That one I did a year ago, though.
Good old-fashioned blood.
And I also did Medal of Honor Rising Sun. I remember, Medal of Honor Rising Sun,
Just stow that gun, huh?
Medal of Honor Rising Sun had that one guy, the undercover Japanese guy that would always help you in the missions. I forget his name, but I remember he died at the very end of the game, trying to save you. He died trying to save you from the Admiral, but then you weren't able to stop the Admiral before he could escape. Forget the character's name, but, who's my current favorite character in my series? Maybe, I would, thank you for the super chat, DL Gaming. I would say probably Michelle, but, Nico also has an interesting backstory. Go to the camp. Let's go to it here. Nico, oh, I know, I know, he's writing his own story. They're not to be confused with Nico and Michelle in, Tanaka, yes, I forgot his name, too. But Nico gets extremely nervous. I've noticed that in your story, DL Gaming. Generals is camp ready to sell. I could sell after this too. Oh, I didn't even know that there's a Witcher 4 trailer. If it is okay to ask, what was the start of your interest in history? That's a fine question to ask. To be honest with you, I really don't know. I've always just been fascinated by history, just looking back in the past and like what happened in the past. I don't know like what was the start of my interest in history. I really don't. like when I started liking history. I don't know. I just always liked history in general. Oh, this is the blizzard that's coming in now. Yeah, you see this event sometimes in Red Dead. You hear that sound? It's when the blizzard's coming in. The map direction of this is pretty weird here.
You don't belong there. Out. Hey, be off with you. I hope you're making your peace.
Do you know about how the Japanese army invaded northeastern India, and also Indian National Army had allegiance to the Japanese Empire? Well, the Indian National Army was a army that Japan had created in order to fight against the British. But about the Indian National Army, what I will say is a lot of Indian national soldiers wanted India to be independent from Britain. But the thing is, though, is if Japan won, they would have done the same thing as Britain. They would have just conquered that area. Is that Japan had no intention by that area being independent also. Is that Japan would not have the resources to conquer all of India, but that area specifically, because that was like, the Indian National Army, that was like around the West Bengal area, so that was like Eastern India, where that happened. The Japanese would have probably conquered that territory. And also, the Japanese, they actually executed Indian soldiers that would not fight in the Indian National Army. So Indians, POWs, that did not want to fight in that, the Japanese executed them and tortured them. What's up, Pro? Hope you're having a good Friday. What is your streaming schedule going to look like since it's Christmas week? Sunday we'll do a GTA stream, and then on Christmas Eve we're gonna do a San Andreas 100% completion stream. Thank you, No, for the super chat. What's your opinion on Kuze in Yakuza 0? Complete scumbag. This is the blizzard. You see this? This weather. This is way better than the, Okay, did we get Razu in here? Let me invite Razu and Rex. I keep forgetting to invite people. I'm sorry, guys. We have 2 spots now. Okay, Thank you, No, for that super chat. I mean, look at this storm, guys. Yeah, I wish that there was more weather like this, like in some parts of the map in Red Dead. I wish that we would have kept weather like this.
What you think you're doing?
Oh, and General needed to sell his General needed to sell his posse, right? That's what he needed to do too. Okay, so where I'm getting. Okay. General, invite me. And Toshia, are you still here? Wow, I mean, look at the graphics, like the snow in this game is just beautiful. What do I think of Hardcore Pawn? I know the show that you're talking about. I actually used to watch it back in the day, so I used to watch episodes of that. Is Hardcore Pawn fake? I don't know, but I will tell you this. I used to work in retail, and working in retail, I saw customers freak out over ridiculous things. Like I saw customers freak out over the smallest things, like the temper tantrums that customers have in that show. I've seen that happen in real life. So like people say, "Oh, it's fake. No one is this stupid." I've seen people act like that in real life. So. General, can you invite the other people to the posse too? Do you think the GTA 5 snow event will be the last one? Maybe. This is the last winter update that we're getting. This is the final winter update. We're not getting another winter update. That's it. Summer, we're probably gonna get a summer update, but winter, this is the last winter update. It's over. Or GTA Online. I never worked retail during Christmas, though, Gunner. I worked during Thanksgiving, but I never worked during Christmas. I'm not in the posse. Wait, I'm not. Hang on. General, can you invite me to your posse, please? Invite me again. I see your comments, Phoenix. What's up, man? Government shutdowns have happened in the past. I wouldn't panic over them. What government shutdowns basically mean is that the government doesn't get funded. It doesn't mean that, like, society is gonna collapse. It's not, like, you know, that's what people think is like that. What basically happens is, if you are a government employee, then yes, your paycheck can be threatened at that point. Is if you work for any kind of government agency, federal government agency, your paycheck can be threatened. But if you're not working in the government shutdown isn't really gonna affect you. It's not good for the country, but it's not, like, you know, it's not necessarily like the end of the world. Like, people think that it means it's like the end of America when there's a government shutdown. It's not true. Wow, this is a really big storm. Okay. Do I know about the Dresden firebombing? Well, Dresden was one of the most destroyed cities in Germany during World War II. Oh god, no. The reason why Majima didn't hand that drunk guy over to the police is because he would have gotten fired from his jobs. Japan has strict rules in companies, and you feel like getting blacklisted. Yeah. Well, yeah. I think what is the name of those Japanese companies that like is the Japanese guy still here in chat? Are you still here, dude? What's the name of those Japanese companies that are like really bad, like they have really bad working conditions and the bosses treat you like crap? I know there's a term for them. What is that called again? The really bad Japanese companies. Do you hate still being called being a GTA YouTuber after uploading so many other games? No, not really. It's fine. It's like, you know, what I grew on. It's what people know me for. I don't consider myself a GTA YouTuber. I consider myself, you know, an all-around, you know, kind of video game content creator. But a lot of people see me as a GTA YouTuber. Black Company, that's what they're called. Is the Japanese guy still here in chat? Are you still here? Toshia, I guess he's not here anymore. Black Company, yeah, that's what I was thinking, what they were called. I found out from your Mafia video that you were a gun owner. I want to ask you, do you take them to the range, or are you collector, or both? Both. I generally like all kinds of firearms, but my favorite firearms are typically like historical firearms. Why is the Yakuza exiled their crime members instead of killing them? Aren't they a brutal crime organization? They work a little different than the Italian Mafia, because the Italian Mafia, there is no such thing as exile. No such thing. You're either in the family or you're dead. There's no in between. So you cannot get exiled from a family. That's just not gonna happen in a Italian Mafia. Yeah, it's that that would be, yeah, that's what I would say about that. The Yakuza also, if the Yakuza exile somebody, they're gonna make them pay some kind of tax, some kind of fee to the boss. Would I take remastered Rockstar games over GTA 6? No, I think I'd still want GTA 6. What firearm would I love to own? If I could choose to only own one gun, like if there was one gun in history, right? One gun in history, and I could own that single gun, what gun would it be? That's a very easy question to answer. If there's one gun that I could, if I could choose all the historical guns right now that pop up in my hand, only one historical gun that I could choose, I would choose the Austro-Hungarian Hellriegel. That is the gun that I would choose. Because the Austro-Hungarian Hellriegel, there was only 5 prototypes of the gun made. And so to this day, we still don't know how the gun operated. We don't know how the gun operated, how it worked. We only know that it's a water-cooled system. But if any those 5 prototypes, we don't know what happened to them. They probably got destroyed during World War I. But if somebody found one of those prototypes, that prototype will be worth millions of dollars. Millions. That would be one of the most expensive firearms ever found. If it was somebody ever found one of those 5 prototypes. Only 5 that existed. And so that's what I'll say is I'd probably want a Hellriegel. But even if I had a Hellriegel, I'd be scared to touch it because of just how old it is, and also the fact that it's such a rare firearm. So that's like it's a gun that'd be worth millions of dollars if it was found today. So it's in Battlefield 1, yeah, but there was only like 5 of them made in real life. But in Battlefield 1, it's like every single soldier is carrying it. And also, the magazine that's in Battlefield 1 is not a real magazine. So the magazine that you see in the gun is not the real gun magazine. It actually was a belt-fed magazine that it had. And the Hellriegel was not a submachine gun, it was more of a machine gun. So that's the thing about the Hellriegel. That's what I'll say about it. Would I play Kingdom Come Deliverance? And, oh hey GB, would I play Kingdom Come Deliverance, and what do I think about the topic of Middle Ages history in general? Because the game portrays it very accurately. I enjoy the channel. Thank you, Mark, thank you, Mark Mitten, for the super chat. Well, well, one thing, I did actually play through, a little bit of Kingdom Come Deliverance 1, but I didn't get far into the game. Basically, where I got up to in the first game is Henry's village gets attacked, and then he runs to the castle. That's as far as I got. I didn't go farther than that. That was the farthest that I got. But what I will say about Kingdom Come Deliverance is my ancestors are actually in that game. Because I'm actually related to the Cumans, so the Cumans that you actually see in Kingdom Come Deliverance, the guys with the big metal mask, I'm actually a technically descendant of them. So those are my ancestors from like hundreds of years ago. But I'm more related to not the Hungarian Cumans. I'm more related to the Polish Cumans. So they were a bunch of people, nomadic people that were from Central Asia that had settled in Eastern and Central Europe. The game's great, man. Yeah, I'm gonna give the game a chance when I get to play it again. I'm probably gonna get the second game too.
Acting like you done hit your head.
What is my favorite firearm? Professional is half Asian. Well, I guess you could say that, because my dad is a Tatar, who are Central Asian people, but he's from Poland. So he's not from Central Asia, but his heritage is Central Asian, his ethnicity. My mother is Slavic. So, I don't know if that makes me, I guess, half Tatar, but that's, but my favorite firearm, I would say, would have to be probably the SVT-40. Probably that. I have an SVT-40, that's probably my favorite firearm, is the SVT-40, yeah. I would say probably SVT-40. Does anybody know what an SVT-40 is? Anybody in chat know what it is? Because whenever I talk firearms to people and I tell them I have an SVT-40, they never know what that is. Like it's very few people actually know what it is. Yes, a few people got it right. Random, Gamer, and Sophistry got it right. Yeah, it's a Soviet World War II rifle. For any of you guys know, it's in a lot of the Call of Duty games have the SVT-40. The SVT-40 is that World War II semi-automatic Soviet rifle. So it's the Soviet semi-auto gun, Soviet semi-automatic rifle. That's the SVT-40. What's your question? Do I hate the Hessian soldiers during the Revolutionary War, or do you hate their commanders? I hate their commanders more of it, because the thing about the Hessians is that here's the thing about the Hessians. Hessians in the Revolutionary War are technically not mercenaries. Technically not. Do you know who are mercenaries? The Hessian leaders are mercenaries. The Hessian soldiers are not mercenaries. The leaders are mercenaries, not the soldiers. Now, I know that might seem confusing. How are the commanders mercenaries, but the soldiers aren't mercenaries? The commanders basically got paid by the British, and then they used their soldiers, which the Hessian soldiers were oftentimes townspeople and peasants from those villages that undergone, like, a lot of military training. So they were still elite soldiers, but they did not come from a rich background. So a lot of the Hessians were they were tough soldiers, they were elite soldiers, but they did not come from a rich background. A lot of them were from peasant families, and so the Hessian commanders were like lords and aristocrats that basically like forced these people into the Hessian military, into their, their private army, and then they would basically sell off to the British. So they were, the Hessians were more like conscript soldiers that were basically forced to fight for their commanders and like their mercenary commanders. That's more what they were like, because the Hessian soldiers did not get paid well. Soldiers from the Hessians did not get a lot of money. The commanders made a lot of money, but the soldiers didn't. So that was about the Hessians. I don't really hate the Hessians, I more hate the Hessian commanders. Yeah, that's what I'll say about the Hessians there. And also about the Hessians is a lot of the Hessians ended up staying in America. If you are a German American and you actually trace your ancestry all the way back to the Revolutionary War, chances are that your ancestor is actually one of the Hessian soldiers that was in America, the 13 colonies during the Revolutionary War. What do you think of the mystery drones over New Jersey? Oh, I think that the about the mystery drones is it's some kind of government cover-up. I don't know what it is, but it's some kind of government cover-up. I will tell you though that about that stuff is the reason I say it's a government cover-up is I'm not like one of those people that's like, oh, it's aliens or UFOs. No, it has nothing to do with aliens. The reason I'm saying it's a government cover-up is because the government constantly keeps saying that the drones are not a threat. They're saying it's not a threat, there's nothing to worry about. So the government knows what the drones are, but the government is not telling people what the drones are. So the government knows what the drones are, but isn't telling people what the drones are. So that's what I'll say about the about that, is that the government is clearly hiding something. And honestly, it's pissing me off because the government acts like the population are a bunch of idiots. Pro, thoughts on Poland being called Islamophobic, yet Poland has one of the oldest Tatar population in Europe, Lipka Tatars. Yeah, my father is a Lipka Tatar. So my dad is not, my dad isn't Muslim, my dad is a non-religious guy, but most of my father's family is Muslim, and they're from Poland. So they don't think that Poland is an Islamophobic country, so it's, I don't know where people are getting that personally from. It's like, Poland just, people in Poland just really don't like illegal immigration. Like, they're completely against illegal immigration, and so I don't know how that's, people are trying to turn that into a racist issue, but it's nothing to do with race. It's just people in Poland just really don't like illegal immigration. Okay, let me see here. Make a post here. Posse. Okay, here we go. Moonshine Shack. My favorite historical gun is the M1 carbine. I spoke to many who carried it and want to own one. If I was a soldier in American soldier in World War II, I would have liked the M1 carbine. I would have preferred that. It's lighter. It's not gonna kill your back as much as the M1 Garand. Not as heavy. Doesn't have as much recoil. Maybe not as much stopping power, but I would prefer the M1 carbine. Well, I will tell you something is that the biggest problem that people have is that a lot of people don't understand the difference between a Muslim and an Islamist. There's a very big difference. And like in my father's family, they are all mostly Muslims, but they really don't like Islamists. They don't. And there's a big difference between a Muslim and an Islamist. A Muslim is just somebody who practices the Islamic religion, and just a regular person. An Islamist is somebody, they're not necessarily like a criminal, but they are somebody who has extreme views, like very extreme views, like they believe that like the government should be controlled by the Islamic religion, and they have very extreme views on it. So it's not like, it's somebody that has a very extreme views when it comes to Islam, so they're basically an extremist. Not necessarily, Islamists aren't necessarily all terrorists, but they have very extreme views when it comes to religion. So there's a very big difference. There's terrorists. Terrorists are the next people above Islamists. They're the more extreme people. But Islamists are people who have a very extreme view of religion. So there's a big difference between Muslims and Islamists. Muslims are just somebody who practices the Islamic religion, just regular people. But Islamists are people who they have a very extreme view of Islam. What if the American government took away the Second Amendment? Do you think people would react not kindly to it? Oh, if the American government took away the Second Amendment, that would probably break up the country. That probably would. Thank you, Mario, for sponsoring my channel for 2.5 years. Yeah, it's true. As a Muslim, I don't like Islamists. There's a lot of Islamists in my country, Indonesia. All of them got disbanded. Yeah, and I would say is that's the thing is that Poland is not an Islamophobic country. Like I said, my father's family is mostly Muslim and they live in Poland. It's that people in Poland don't like Islamists. It's people have a very extreme view of Islam. They don't have a problem with Muslims. So like my father's family has never faced any kind of discrimination, racism. I can't speak for everybody. There's obviously racist people in Poland. There's people who are Islamophobic in Poland. But my father's family have been, living in Poland for centuries. They're Tatars. They're Muslims who have lived there for centuries and they haven't faced any kind of discrimination or racism. So that's what I'll say about that. I can't speak for every Polish person, but I can just say my father's family has not faced any of it, any discrimination or racism. Okay, let's get this one here. But yeah, I would just say is I would just say to people who are confused is please look up the difference between an Islamist and a Muslim, because it's not the same thing. People think it's the same thing. Like I said, I'm gonna say it the last time, is Muslim is just somebody who practices the Muslim faith. Islamist is somebody who has a very extreme view of Islam. It's an extremist, basically. No, the drones are definitely not from Iran, 100%. No. Iran doesn't have the resources to do something like that, no. Hi, Professional. I just want to say your videos are really relaxing. Always look forward to watching your videos. Thank you, Mega. Thank you for sponsoring my channel for a year and 4 months. Have a favorite shotgun? I only have one shotgun, so I don't have a lot of shotguns. The only shotgun that I actually have is I have the Browning Auto 5. So the semi-automatic shotgun that's in Red Dead, this one. Let me see where it is here. This one. I have this shotgun, this one. That's the only one I own. I don't own any other shotguns. But what do I think about the people who claim that the what, Gunner? You have a sale after this mission? Okay, yeah, we can help you after this. Stop the stream. Do you think the drones are searching for anything nuclear related? No. Can you show the shotgun? No. Because if I show the shotgun, what's gonna happen is that the video is gonna get instantly demonetized. That's just how YouTube is like that towards gun channels. Is that they treat gun channels like garbage.
Hey, get yourself gone from here. You gone? Hey, it's time for you to go. Get yourself out of there.
Hey, no, thank you.
Ain't no place for you to go. We all around you.
Do I have any sniper rifles? Not really. I don't really have any sniper rifles. And the thing is, it's very hard what you define as a sniper rifle because when people define sniper rifles, a sniper rifle can really be any kind of rifle when you really think about it. So like there's, I don't necessarily like that term sniper rifle. I don't think that it's really any gun can be a sniper rifle. I mean, like literally, you could take a hunting rifle and put a scope on it and call it a sniper rifle. So, if you're wondering, do I have scopes on any of my rifles? No, not really. I traditionally like to keep the gun the way it is, but I will say I will say that the most accurate rifle that I have, the rifle that basically shoots the most accurately, and like every single time I shoot the rifle, it's like dead on accurate. Like it's like never had a miss with it at the range. It's always shot 100% on point. Is the Carcano. The Italian Carcano rifle. That is, out of all the, because I have a lot of World War II rifles, out of all the World War II rifles that I have, that is the most accurate one. It shoots always dead on with iron sights. And the Carcano that I have is specifically the M41, which is the World War II Italian version, and it's the long rifle version. So it's not the carbine, it's the long rifle version. And I think that that rifle belonged to an Italian sniper during World War II, or it was just never used, or it was taken care of really well. Because the rifling on it is really good, and so it's I've had such good, you know, accuracy with it that I think it belonged to a sniper because it's how well the gun was taken care of. So,
I'll make you pay for this.
Hey, I'm gone.
Face alive. Ah, heck.
would you say that Islamists are similar to fundamentalists? Well, fundamentalists most of the time are terrorists. That's what terrorists are, is they are fundamentalists. But what I would say about it is that Islamists are extreme people. They can be very dangerous people, but somebody who's an Islamist is not always necessarily somebody who has committed crimes. Like, an Islamist could be somebody that hasn't committed any kind of crimes, but they have extreme views. So like if somebody has like very extreme views, like they think that religion should control the government, like stuff like that. You know, if they basically want like religious law, they are an Islamist. So if they like support like Islamic law, you know, being like the law of the land, that person's an Islamist. So they might necessarily like, you know, be committing violent acts, but just because of their views, they're extreme. They're an extremist. you know, a fundamentalist is basically a terrorist. Is like the next step at that point. But it's very important not to confuse Muslims with Islamists because you know, like I said, my father's family is mostly Muslim, and they get pretty pissed off when people like compare Muslims to Islamists and they think that it's the same thing. It's not. An Islamist is somebody who's extreme. A Muslim is just somebody who follows the Islamic faith. An Islamist is just somebody who's very like you know, extreme when it comes to the Islamic faith. They have extreme views. They're an extremist. They have views that are completely out of date with society, and you know, they have no place in society. But that's what I'll say about it.
Give one of these ribs, just
Yeah, older people tend to be more like that. Yes, Strike, you're right. And that's the thing about Syria. You know what's really scary about Syria is that most of the rebels that are in control of Syria right now are Islamists. A lot of them are. And so they have extreme views when it comes to Islam, and what's scary about that is that they could impose their religious dictatorship in Syria. So they just might replace Assad's dictatorship with their own religious dictatorship, and minorities might get attacked in Syria. That can very much happen. That's what happened in Libya. In Libya, when the Islamists took over, like, the country fell into civil war, and minorities constantly kept getting attacked. So the same thing could happen also in Syria now. Wow, Polish Muslim, I've never heard of that. No, Muslims have been living in Poland, you know, for 600, 700 years. You know, but look up the Lipka Tatars. That is basically my father's Lipka Tatars, the ethnic. It's a Central Asian ethnic group that has lived in Poland for hundreds of years. My father is a Tatar. I'm not a Muslim. I'm non-religious. My father's family is mostly Muslim. My mother's family, they are mostly Catholic. So my father's family is mostly Muslim. There's a few atheists in my family as well, but most of the people in my family are either Catholic or they're Muslim.
hell is your problem?
Join Sophistry. Okay.
Good animal.
I'm in Sophistry's group now. Propaganda shows? What do you mean, Gunner? Bro, when your father married your mother, she should have accepted Islam because without it, you cannot marry Muslim man. My father isn't Muslim. My father comes from a Muslim family, but he's not Muslim. My father, like I said, my father is a non-religious person. You know, he grew up in a, my father's father, his grandfather was not Muslim. His mother was. His two brothers were Muslims. But he was just non-religious. He didn't have some. Both of my uncles were Muslim, but my father was never really practiced the Islamic faith. He was non-religious. He never really followed any kind of religion. He's not an atheist. He still believes in God, but he doesn't really follow any religion. Cop propaganda? Wait, where is you seeing this, Gunner? Yeah, Polish food is very good. There's Finnish Tatars, Chinese Tatars, Astrakhan Tatars, Afghan Tatars, Volga Tatars, Dobrujan Tatars, Lipka Tatars, and Crimean Tatars. My father's a Lipka Tatar. my worst experience with gun recoil. I can answer that question. I can answer that one. Basically, people are gonna laugh at me for this. My worst experience with gun recoil. What happened was I was firing a Remington 700, which is a bolt-action rifle, and it was my friend's bolt-action rifle, so he let me shoot it. And I was prone. I was firing it through the scope. The mistake I made was I underestimated the recoil on the Remington 700. I didn't think the recoil would be that bad, but I should have known better. It was a 30-06, which is gonna kick. And what happened was I had my eye too close in the scope. Like, I didn't have it right in the scope, but I was like a little too close. And what happened was when the recoil went, it bounced back and basically punched me in the eye. And when that happened, I couldn't open my eye for 10 seconds, and then afterwards I was able to open my eye. It kind of hurt, but I didn't have to go to the hospital or anything. I made a full recovery. Within a couple days I was fine. But that was the worst experience I've had with recoil, and that was a really bad experience I had. And that taught me a valuable lesson that if you're looking through a rifle scope, don't keep your eye too close to the scope. That was one big lesson I learned. That was the worst experience I had with recoil was that.
No damn time for you.
What is my favorite submachine gun? I've never fired a submachine gun. I never have. So I can't answer that question. Can you post your comment again, Consulieri? What did he survive, Rister man? I don't think that Law and Order is cop propaganda. I don't think so. Law and Order has plenty of bad cops and characters on that show too, so I don't think that it's cop propaganda. And the thing is, I haven't watched Law and Order in years. But I watched, like, when I was flying to visit my parents. I spent like 3 hours on the flight just watching Law and Order. What happened was I was watching Special Victims Unit. I hadn't watched it in years, but the episodes were good. So it was a lot of the episodes were good on that. I will just say to you, the most unrealistic thing that you see on Law and Order, the most ridiculous thing on that show, is when they arrest people on Law and Order, and they say to them, you have the right to remain silent. If you want an attorney, one will be provided for you. Blah blah blah. They're reading the Miranda rights. That is the most ridiculous, unrealistic thing that happened. Because in real life, cops are not going to read you your Miranda rights when they arrest you. That is not going to happen. Cops read you your Miranda rights when you're being questioned. So when you get arrested and you're getting put in the back of a police car, they're not going to just read you your Miranda rights when they're walking you to the car. They're going to read you your Miranda rights when they're questioning you. So when you're under questioning, that's when they're going to read you your Miranda rights. Not when you're getting arrested and walked to the car. It's not going to happen. There's a landscaping business called Law and Order where we lay down the lawn. Oh, that's great. What is the worst cop show that you've seen? The one that makes you cringe at the inaccuracies? Either CSI Miami or Hawaii Five-0. It's probably Hawaii Five-0. Yeah, Hawaii Five-0 probably. Hawaii Five-0 is so unrealistic. There's so much ridiculous stuff, and it's like, and it's the fact that the police have this crazy supercomputer that they like. It's like no. Yeah, Hawaii Five-0 would probably be the worst one. They read you your Miranda rights at the car in Indiana? Well, I never heard about that. That's the first time I'm hearing that. They definitely don't do that in New York. Yeah, I will play Condemned. You've been requesting that a lot. I'll play it. You mean NCIS? Yeah, Is NCIS even, like, a real agency? I think it is. Is it? But, like, I would have to look that up. I think it's, like, naval something, naval criminal investigation something. It's... Hang on, is NCIS real? Yes, it is real. What is the purpose of NCIS? Naval Criminal Investigation Services, so I was kind of right. Department of Navy. Major criminal it investigates major criminal activities involving the Navy and the Marine Corps. National security, counterintelligence, counterterrorism. Well, I will tell you this about NCIS is I've never really heard much about NCIS. I had so many teachers in college when I was studying criminal justice, and I have never heard one professor, one cop mention NCIS. Never have. Like we learned about the DEA, we learned about ATF, we learned about CIA, we learned about FBI, Homeland Security. We have never learned about NCIS. They never mentioned it. So I don't know if it's just not a big agency, but we've just never really covered it. So. Oh, I don't know, Consigliere. Oh, I'm sorry to hear about that, Bryce. I hope that they got justice for her. Was this like involving like a military case specifically? What do you think about South Korea attempted a coup by their previous president? Can Korea become authoritarian again? You know what I will tell you about that is that history has shown us that any country can become authoritarian, any country. So don't think that just because you live in like a first world democracy that your country cannot go authoritarian. I'm not saying to be like a paranoid conspiracy crazy person, but I'm saying is that every single government can go tyrannical. It can happen. Every single government can go tyrannical. A dictatorship can form. It can happen. I'm not trying to scare people. I'm not trying to make people panic, but I'm just saying is it can happen. And some people are very naive and they think that it cannot happen whatsoever. But I will tell you guys something about it is whenever I've watched like a lot of gun channels on YouTube. And a lot of gun channels on YouTube, a lot of American gun channels, what they constantly talk about is they talk about how the purpose of gun rights in America is to prevent a tyrannical government. So it's to prevent like that's the whole purpose of the Second Amendment is to basically Americans can basically as a last resort protect themselves if like the government becomes like fascist or communist dictatorship, some kind of dictatorship, they can protect themselves from it. But the thing is though is I watched this one girl on YouTube, and I forget the girl's name, but the girl she was from North Korea, and she has like she has a YouTube channel where she talks about like stuff she went through in North Korea, and she talked about like a North Korean's like thoughts on like American gun rights. And in the video she basically talked about how like North Korea is this authoritarian state, it's this horrible brutal dictatorship, and that that nobody can own a gun in North Korea. And if people could own a gun, there would be no Kim Jong-un, there would be no Workers' Party of Korea, that North Korea could possibly be a free country. Yeah, that's her, Park. Yes, that's her name. And what happened was when she posted that video, it's a video on her channel. It's like a North Korean's view on gun rights or something like that. Yeah, I remember I saw it. And what happened is on her, if you look at the comment section in the video, there was a lot of Koreans that got pissed off at her for promoting gun rights. There's like a lot of South Koreans that were saying in the comment section, they were saying like stuff like this can't happen. Like, you know, in South Korea, we don't have guns in South Korea, and guns are banned, and our government isn't tyrannical. Our government is never gonna, turn into a dictatorship. It's not gonna happen. We're a safe country here in South Korea. And so what happened was a lot of people, I think, were very naive, and they just totally believed in their minds that their government could never become tyrannical. They thought that something like that could never happen. But now, to the people that tell me that like that governments, like when people say South Korea is a safe place that has like gun control and like the government is never going to go tyrannical, every single time somebody tells me that the South Korean government is not going to go tyrannical, I'm going to bring up that coup. Every single time I'm going to do that now. Because that was basically happening right there. Thankfully, it was stopped. Thankfully, it didn't lead to civil war, so it was stopped. It was stopped pretty quickly, and the president was impeached. But, like I will say, is that people thinking that their government can't go tyrannical, and they're thinking, oh, there's no need for civilians to own guns, the government will protect you. The government isn't going to violate your rights. I will tell you, history has shown us one crucial thing. And the one crucial thing that history has shown us, this is a very horrible thing that history has shown us. This is a really bad thing. But do you know who has committed the most amount of shootings in history? Who has committed the most amount of murders with guns in history? Do you know what group has done that? Who has done the most amount of mass shootings, the most amount of mass killings in history? Who's done it? Government. Government has committed the most amount of mass shootings in history. They have committed the worst atrocities with guns throughout history. So government are the ones who have killed the most amount of people in history with guns. And so whenever I hear people say that civilians don't need guns, that there's no need for them, then, and they say, oh, you know, civilians are too irresponsible with guns. You know, there's no need for civilians to own guns because civilians could, you know, commit massacres and they could, you know, do horrible things with guns. Well, what I would bring up to them is I would say to them that the people who have committed the most amount of mass shootings in history aren't civilians. It's governments. Governments have committed the worst massacres with guns. Not civilians. Governments have. So yes, civilians have committed horrible atrocities with guns. Sure, it's happened. You know, I'm not denying that. But the worst atrocities of them all have been committed by governments. And the amount of killings that governments have done with guns, it does not compare to the amount of killings that civilians have done with guns. So governments throughout history are the biggest mass killers with firearms. And so if the government is basically going to say to civilians that civilians are irresponsible, they can't own firearms, if we're applying that exact same logic, the first people that should be disarmed shouldn't be the civilians, it should be the government. If we're applying that logic that civilians are too irresponsible with guns, the governments in history have shown us that they are the most irresponsible with guns, not civilians. So that's basically what I'll say, is that history has shown us that governments are the most abusive with guns. They are the most irresponsible with guns. They've committed the worst horrible things with guns, not civilians. But yet the government constantly says, oh, civilians are too irresponsible with guns. But that's what I'll say about it too. So like, yeah, it's like if I ever hear somebody from South Korea tell me that their government, that they're a safe country with no gun violence and they don't need guns, the government isn't going to go tyrannical, I'm going to bring up that coup every single time from now on too. Do Polish versions of the Mafia exist? Sure. But the Polish Mafia is mostly involved in trucking. That's what they were mostly involved in, trucking and stealing cars. That's what they're mostly involved in. They don't have gun violence. You can't argue against that. Sure, well, I will concede to you that South Korea has very little gun violence. That I will say you are right on that. But South Korea might not have gun violence, but it has violence still. And another thing I will tell you about this is, like for example, if you look at all of the gun deaths in America, more than half of those gun deaths are suicides. And if you apply that exact thing to South Korea has one of the highest suicide rates in the world. I think that South Korea's suicide rate might actually be even higher than America's. I think Japan has the highest suicide rate in East Asia, but Japan and South Korea, these are countries that have very strict gun control, and they have some of the highest suicide rates in the world. And remember, more than half of the gun deaths in America are suicides. So that has shown us right there that banning guns is not going to stop people from killing themselves. It's not going to stop suicide. If somebody wants to kill themselves, they're going to do it regardless if they have a gun or not. And, you know, the thing about it is, we also have to look at it this way, that, you know, cars kill double the amount of people every single year than guns do. And, you know, we don't ban cars. We don't say, you know, cars should be outlawed in the streets. You know, cars do good. You know, they help. Guns also help. They do good as well. So it's not gun is just basically an item. It's not a it is not a it's not an evil thing. It's just an item. It can be used for evil, but all it is, it's just pretty much an item. That's all it pretty much is in the end. And I know there's gonna be people out there that are gonna say, but the purpose of a gun is to kill. No, it's not. It really depends on the firearm. If somebody creates like a rifle specifically for hunting, right? And the maker of that gun makes that gun, and they say this gun is designed for hunting, and somebody uses that gun to murder somebody, you can't say that the purpose of that gun is to kill people, because they literally said the purpose of the gun was for hunting. And if somebody creates a gun for target shooting, they're that's the maker of the gun saying the gun was designed for target shooting. It wasn't designed to kill. And if somebody makes a gun for self-defense, they're gonna say the gun was used to be made for self-defense. It was not made to be used for murder. So it's really is that I don't think that you can even say that that guns are designed to kill. It really depends on the firearm. The only guns you could say were designed to kill were maybe military firearms. Those were used primarily for war. But most civilian guns are not designed to kill. They're designed either for self-defense, target shooting, or hunting. That's pretty much what I said. It's just a tool. It's not it can be used for good or bad. Just like a knife. A knife can be used for good or bad. It can be used to cook, cut things that you need cutting, or it can be used for murder. Violence. So that's ultimately that. And I will say, sure, America might have more gun violence than other countries, but I guarantee you there are things that there are certain things that America doesn't have that other countries have as problems. So every country has its own problems. And I don't think that you can compare, like, America's problems to necessarily, like, at the same time another country's problems, because policies that are in South Korea might not necessarily work that are in America. That's also another important thing to note. The societies are different, the cultures are different, so there's, that's also another thing that you have to take into account. Okay, let me go here. Super excited for you to blow up when GTA 6 comes out. Will you still make money guides and stuff? Oh, definitely. When GTA 6 comes out, I will 100% cover it, and I'll make guides on it. Greenland has the highest suicide rate. Really? Greenland? I didn't know that. Germany had a car plow into a crowd recently. Yeah, and it's horrible what happened in Germany. But the point here is that a lot of these really bad people, they're still going to commit crimes. Like there are a lot of people out there that think that if guns are banned, that nobody is going to kill people. They think that there's going to be, like, no violence, that people aren't going to do these horrible things. But, like, I'm going to tell you, gangsters are still going to exist, whether they have guns or not. They're just going to start stabbing each other. So gangsters are still going to find ways to, commit crimes. If you look at my cousin, he lives in Britain, and in his country, there's so many stabbings. Like, gangsters are constantly stabbing each other, and the stabbings have gotten sort of controlled that the government has actually banned certain knives in Britain. So it's this idea that, like, if guns are banned and criminals can't get guns, okay, sure, there's going to be less shootings, but it doesn't mean that there's going to be less violence. What country do you think is the most likely to turn tyrannical? I don't want to go into that whole speculation stuff. The only thing I'm saying is that it can happen to any country. Every country has their own individual problems. Exactly, Zombie. Criminals will find a way to get guns. Yeah. Criminals don't follow... The definition of a criminal is somebody who doesn't follow the law. So... Hey, Gretty Gaming. How are you, man? Check out my friend Gretty Gaming TV there. He does a lot of GTA and Red Dead content. Isn't authoritarian and communism the same thing? Yes and no. Communism is a form of authoritarianism. communism is an economic system like capitalism? No. There's a very big difference between like communism and capitalism. Not necessarily in the economic system. The difference between communism and capitalism is that capitalism is an economic system, but communism is not just an economic system, it's also an ideology. That's the difference, is that capitalism is just, you live in a society where, you know, you can earn as much money as you want, make as much money as you want, and spend as much money as you want. That's basically what a capitalist system is. But a communist, but a capitalist system can really be anything. A capitalist system can be a dictatorship, or it can be a democracy, a monarchy. Really, any kind of country can be a capitalist system. So it can be a democracy, or it can be a very authoritarian system. But a communist country is always going to be an authoritarian system. You are not going to have one communist country that is ever going to be, you know, a democratic, free country. There are certain communist countries that are worse than others, definitely, that are more, you know, dictatorial. But every single communist country is always authoritarian. There is not one communist country on this planet that is not authoritarian. It has not existed. It's honestly you have a better chance of winning the lottery than finding a communist country that is not authoritarian on this planet. It's like communism is a form of authoritarianism. It exists because, like I said, capitalism is just an economic system. You can make as much money as you want, spend as much money as you want. That's what capitalism is. Communism is an economic system, but it's also an ideology. It infiltrates the culture, it infiltrates the society, it tells people exactly how they should act, what kind of homes they should own, you know, what kind of jobs they can have, you know, stuff like that. That's basically what communism is. It's an ideology, but also an economic system. Capitalism is an economic system. When I went to Cuba, I was intimidated by the communist rules when I arrived at the airport. Pat, how were you intimidated? Would you say Iran is an example of a great example of a free country turning into a dictatorship? Well, Iran wasn't necessarily a free country before the revolution, but the revolution made it even more unfree. So Iran was a dictatorship before the revolution, but after the revolution, it was even worse. It was more brutal. It was so, yeah. We have North Korea and China next door. Oh, yeah, so, hey, what's up, dude? You're back. Ace and the Jack here. And also, what's your name again? It was Tahima? I'm sorry, I'm trying to remember what your name was. Can you tell me your name one more time? And Iran technically is a capitalist country, but it's also a theocracy. What a theocracy is, it's basically a religious dictatorship. That's what a theocracy is. It's a dictatorship controlled by religion. That guy's got a really cool outfit. That guy with the mask. Damn, I don't even have one pair here. Okay, I'm gonna do a big risk here. I'm gonna see if I can trick him here. Let's see if I hope he folds. Ah, damn, he's going all in too. Damn, oh wait, I had a jack. I didn't see that earlier. I had a jack. I'm going crazy. I thought I didn't have a pair, but I did have a jack. Yes, it's Toshia. So yeah, so Toshia, you live in Japan. You live right next door to a very authoritarian country, North Korea. It's one of the most, probably the worst dictatorship in the world is North Korea. And I'm the last one here left. No one else is playing. But about you must read a lot. I do actually like reading a lot. But about Toshia's country, Japan. Do you know what North Korea does to Japan? Every so often, what North Korea does is they fire a nuclear missile and this nuclear missile, it doesn't have a nuclear payload in it, so it's a nuclear missile that's empty, but it's still a nuclear missile. They fire the nuclear missile over Japan. So when they do tests, they fire the missile constantly over Japan. And Japan, whenever North Korea does that, Japan makes, like, big alarms. Like, they tell people, get inside right now, because they don't know what's going on. And people panic, and people get scared. And Japan never shoots down these missiles, because, the reason that Japan never shoots down these missiles is because they're scared that if they shoot them down, that they're gonna provoke North Korea, even though North Korea is the one who's actually fighting, who's sending these missiles into their country. But that's what I'll say about it, is that North Korea has been harassing Japan and firing these missiles over their country. And I will say about that is that for a lot of countries, you could make the argument that that's pretty much declaring war at that point. Is if a country fires missiles over your country constantly, and it just falls in the ocean, even though the missiles are not falling in your country, just constantly violating your country's airspace like that, you could pretty much make the argument that that's war at that point. So, but Japan doesn't want, to provoke North Korea any further. But whenever North Korea does this, whenever North Korea fires those nuclear missiles over Japan, their media always says the exact same thing. They say, this is revenge for, what Japan did during World War II against, like, the Korean people and stuff like that. That's what the North Korean media always says. They say that bullshit over and over again. Now, Japan did do horrible things in Korea during World War II. Don't get me wrong. They committed horrible atrocities against the Koreans, and they took, like, women hostages and women as sex slaves. However, though, the Japanese people that are alive today, very few of them are from World War II. Very few of them are, war criminals that had lived during World War II. This is a different age that's living today, and North Korea constantly fires missiles over Japan and just says, oh, this is revenge for what Japan did during World War II. But it's like nobody that lives in Japan today is, like, literally from a one of those war criminals in Korea during World War II. So, like, North Korea is just using that as an excuse constantly to threaten and scare and harass Japan. And it's ridiculous. And so it's just, that's what I'll say about that. Toshia, did you hear everything I said? Do you agree with what I said there? But yeah, I just wanted to bring that up because Toshia is back in chat. He's from Japan, but he was mentioning North Korea before. But I just wanted to bring that up there. It's ridiculous. It's like they're firing nuclear missiles over their country constantly, and they're bringing up stuff that happened during World War II. It's, like I said again, it's horrible. What Japan did during World War II. But the people that are in Japan today, 99% of them have nothing to do with World War II. They're literally, it's a new generation. Most of the war criminals that are from World War II are dead. So it's just Japan's just doing North Korea constantly doing that to Japan and scaring the people, and I can imagine how scary that is, constantly being told to run into a shelter that there's like a North Korean missile flying over your country again. Which dictatorship do you think is worse, Turkmenistan, North Korea, or Brunei? North Korea. Yeah, North Korea, because Turkmenistan, at least Turkmenistan, you have a chance of escaping. And Turkmenistan has some internet access where North Korea has none. So I would say North Korea is the worst one. Well, Japan did a lot of horrible things to a lot of countries. They committed horrible atrocities against the Chinese, the Philippines, the Koreans. But basically what I'm saying is that, about it is that North Korea constantly brings up World War II, and they use that as an excuse to just test nuclear missiles over Japan. And North Korea basically accomplishes two things with that. The first thing they accomplished is they tested their new nuclear missile, and the second thing they do is they scare the Japanese. They like scaring the Japanese. They like intimidating them, and that's not okay. And I would if I was Japanese, I would support Japan shooting down those missiles if they were even if they weren't hitting Japan, they were just flying over. I would support Japan, honestly, shooting down those missiles. But Japan, I understand their perspective at the same time too. They're scared to provoke North Korea by destroying one of those missiles in the sky. But that's what I would say is that North Korea is the is honestly, it's one of the most disgusting, ridiculous regimes, and hopefully it's gone one day. Thank you, No, for the super chat. Yes, I agree, but many people think if we upset North Korea, we will also upset China, so people do not want to create issues. But the thing about that is that even China is getting pissed off at North Korea. Like, China hates North Korea too. Like, they don't like North Korea. The thing about China and North Korea's friendship, it's not necessarily like a friendship. It's more of like a partnership. China, if the WikiLeaks documents that came out like a decade ago when Julian Assange like leaked all of that, he like leaked top secret like government, American federal government documents, and in one of those documents, I read a lot of them. I remember that one of those documents, they said that the Chinese are ready for a new change in North Korea. They're ready for like a new government in North Korea because they're getting sick of the North Korean government. Because whenever North Korea does something stupid, they're causing problems for China. Because then China basically feels the need to get involved, and they feel like they have to mediate those situations. And China gets pissed at this too. So China's not necessarily like a free country. They're more freer than North Korea. But the Chinese get pissed off at dealing with this stuff. But the reason the Chinese still help the North Koreans, even though they get pissed off at them, is because the Chinese hate South Koreans more than the North Koreans. And if they had to choose, would they rather border North Korea or South Korea? They would rather border North Korea. So they do not want South Korea to take control of North Korea. So that's primarily why they prop up North Korea, because they really don't like South Korea. That's the primary reason.
Well, I'm sure you'll be back.
So, honestly, I will tell you this. I don't know how China would react if you shot down one of those missiles, if Japan shot down one of those North Korean missiles, but if that North Korean missiles enters Japan's airspace, Japan has a right to shoot down that missile at that point. If it enters your country's airspace, your country has a right to shoot it down, and honestly, no country can complain about that. Not China, not North Korea, no country, because literally no country has the right to test nuclear missiles in your country's airspace. So that's what I'll say about that, is that those missiles are not loaded with any nuclear payloads. North Korea is just doing that primarily to scare Japan every time. Hey, what do you think of the Australian colonial history? Many people find it controversial. You're talking about when Australia was a penal colony. And the British basically took a lot of their prisoners, and the British actually used to dump a lot of their prisoners in America, but when the Revolutionary War ended and America became independent, they couldn't dump their prisoners in America anymore, and so they started dumping them in Australia, and that was basically a way for Britain to take away some of their prisoners, and they wouldn't be able to return to Britain because they were basically so far away. But I don't know much more than that. I know that Australia had conflicts with the Aboriginal people. I don't know how much about those conflicts. I know there was conflicts between Australian colonial people and the Aboriginals, but I don't know much more than that. But thank you, Snake, for the super chat. Hey, Pro, I want to say thank you a lot for your grinding videos and Let's Plays. I appreciate a lot of your tips and tricks, and I'm doing a lot of live stream for GTA because I will stop playing this game next year. Okay, Taco, I'm assuming you're getting ready for GTA 6. Thank you, and thank you for the super chat, largest super chat today on the stream. Thank you, Taco. Thoughts on Jason Blaha? There's a new documentary on him. Who's Jason Blaha? I don't know who Jason Blaha is. I would have to look this up. Christmas shopping is headache. Yeah, but I would recommend when you're doing Christmas shopping, do it on December 1st. That's what I always do that on December 1st. So when December 1st hits, I always do that on December 1st. Jason Blaha is a fitness instructor. I never heard of this guy. Well, that's what I would say is do Christmas shopping. And when I do Christmas shopping, I always just ask my parents, what do you want for Christmas? That's basically what I ask them. So I ask them just that first week of December, and whatever my parents want, I buy them. Why do you think Hirohito wasn't executed? The only Axis leader not to die as a result of World War II. The reason that Hirohito wasn't executed is because Hirohito was seen as a god in Japan. He was seen as a god in Japan, and he was also seen as a central and cultural symbol of Japan. And if and as for if was Hirohito innocent or not, Hirohito was guilty. Hirohito was very much guilty of a lot of the war crimes that Japan had committed. His brother was one of the princes, had like committed horrible atrocities in China. The reason that Hirohito was not executed for his crimes during World War II is because MacArthur knew that if he executed Hirohito, that there would be revolts in Japan. Because the Japanese during World War II were very different than the Japanese today. Back then, the Japanese saw their emperor as a god. And it wasn't until after World War II they stopped seeing him as a god, because they realized he surrendered. He gave up. He didn't keep fighting. He's not a god to us anymore. And so Japan started becoming non-religious at that point after World War II. But before that they saw the emperor as a god. They saw him as a central cultural figure of Japan. And if the emperor was executed, that would have caused constant civil war in Japan. There would have been civil wars. There would have been uprisings all over the country. The country could have fallen to communists at the same time too. And that's why MacArthur did not didn't execute Hirohito. And as horrible as it is to let Hirohito go, we had no choice. We had to do that. We couldn't put Hirohito on trial, because if we put him on trial, so many people would have died. There would have been this constant civil war, so we had to let him go. As horrible as it is, we had really no choice. MacArthur was right in that, because it would have just caused endless civil war in Japan. And at the same time, I will say though that America did protect Japan from the Soviet Union, because the Soviet Union actually wanted to occupy Hokkaido. So the Soviet Union took Sakhalin Island from Japan. Sakhalin Island is an island that's part of Russia today. It's actually north of Hokkaido, Japan's most northern region. And it was during the Russo-Japanese War that happened in 1904 to 1905, Japan actually took half of that island from Russia. And during World War II, in the late stages of it, like August 1945, the Soviets actually pushed through Manchuria, and then they actually pushed through Sakhalin. They retook all of Sakhalin, and then they wanted to invade Hokkaido. So they wanted to actually invade Hokkaido next. But what happened was, Truman, who was the American president, basically told Stalin, if you invade Hokkaido, if you attack Hokkaido, we're declaring war on you. So that was like America basically protected Japan from the Soviets, because Japan had surrendered at that point. It was pretty much over, and the Soviets wanted to take over Hokkaido. And basically Truman said, if you attack, Japan, we're going to attack you. And so it was Stalin at that point backed off, because he was tired of endlessly fighting the Germans for years. And if Stalin had invaded Hokkaido, he would have created a communist puppet state up there, and it would have been another North Korea, South Korea situation, which you would have had North Japan as a communist country and South Japan as a flourishing democracy. So that's what it would have happened. So that's why I say Truman is one of the best American presidents that we've had, because he literally put his foot down and basically said to Stalin, no, enough. So that was what I would say, is that even FDR did not stand up to Stalin like that. Truman did stand up to Stalin. He basically told Stalin, piss off. He's like, go away. We're not dealing with your garbage. What do I want for Christmas, Pat? I really don't want anything for Christmas. I always tell my mom and dad, get me whatever you want for Christmas. That's just what I always tell them. I never really request anything for Christmas. I always tell them, get me whatever you want. And thank you, Sleep Punch Man, too. Let me see here, too. And Toshia, you're here, too. Do you think that I got a lot of Japan's history right? There? If you're still here. I haven't played Splinter Cell, Chaos. What do I think of Chiang Kai-shek and his role in World War II? Chiang Kai-shek was not a good man. He did horrible things too. But about Chiang Kai-shek is, if you compare Chiang Kai-shek to Mao Zedong, he is a saint compared to Mao. The amount of people that Mao Zedong killed compared to like Chiang Kai-shek is like, it is like Mao Zedong killed like 100 times more people than Chiang Kai-shek did. And that is not an exaggeration. That is how many people that Mao Zedong had killed. So Chiang Kai-shek wasn't a good man. He committed murders. He did bad things too. But compared to Mao, he's a saint. So that's what I'll say, is like compared to him. And he founded Taiwan. And eventually the nationalists, the nationalists were a dictatorship, the Kuomintang, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, was the name of the Chinese Nationalist Party. They were a dictatorship for some time, but eventually they transitioned to a democracy. So the nationalists allowed like elections in Taiwan, but the Communist Party never allowed elections in China. Never. They've always kept a tight dictatorship control over China. Minus 1,000 social credits. Don't worry. I don't plan on visiting China, so I'm good. Yes, I think a lot of it is accurate. The religion that considers the emperor as god is Shintoism. In World War II, this was a state religion, and Japanese Buddhists were persecuted. Yeah, the Shinto government pretty much persecuted anyone who was, not following the Shinto religion. Buddhists, Christians. Was Kim Jong-il as bad as Kim Jong-un? I don't. It's hard. It's hard to really differentiate the two of them. There was a really bad famine in the 1990s under Kim Jong-il. Kim Jong-il tried to make some kind of diplomatic relations with South Korea, and Kim Jong-un at first, it seemed like Kim Jong-un was doing better relations with South Korea, but then he basically messed it all up. So, that's about Kim Jong-un, is he pretty much destroyed all relations with South Korea. There are elections in China, yeah, and who can you vote for in China besides the Communist Party in China? That's not an election. Thoughts on Kim Il-sung, the founder of North Korea. Kim Il-sung, the founder of North Korea, is a joke. And what I'll say about him is that he was not even born in Korea. A lot of people don't know that. The founder of North Korea was not born in North Korea. North Korean propaganda says that he was born on Mount Paektu, which is like Korea's most sacred mountain. But he actually wasn't born on that mountain. And like the North Korean propaganda is so stupid. They actually say that when Kim Il-sung was born, that it literally, there was a blizzard outside. And the blizzard went away, and the seasons instantly changed from winter to spring, and double rainbows appeared. I'm not joking, that's what the North Korean propaganda says. So, like, they say when he was born, that's what happened. It went from a blizzard to, like, clear skies, it went from winter to spring, and double rainbows appeared. That is literally the North Korean propaganda. If you don't believe me, you can look it up. That's what they say about his birth. That's when he was born like that. So, he wasn't even born in Korea. He was actually born in Siberia. He was born in the Soviet Union. And he was actually, his father, Kim Il-sung was born in Korea, but his son Kim Jong-il wasn't born. I'm sorry, I'm getting that wrong. Kim Jong-il was not born in Korea. He was born in the Soviet Union because his father Kim Il-sung was a Korean revolutionary who fought against the Japanese, and he was on the run from the Japanese. And he was in Siberia at that time. So he was born in a poor Siberian village. He was not born in Kim Jong-il was not born on this, sacred mountain in Korea. That didn't happen. It's just nonsense, all of it. It's just.
How you do?
Yep, real good.
Well, that's fine.
Hey, Pro, do you hate Karl Marx? Here, what I'll say about Karl Marx, my view about Karl Marx is a little bit more complicated. Because when it comes to Karl Marx, I hate communism. I think that communism is a terrible system. But I don't really hate Karl Marx, even though he was the one who created communism, because you have to understand Karl Marx's perspective at that. When Karl Marx was alive in his time period, he grew up in industrial Germany. When he was alive in his time period, it was like the height of the Industrial Revolution. It was like really bad conditions for like workers. Like you had little kids working in coal mines, getting their hands chopped off. And so, like, Karl Marx saw that at that time. He got basically pissed off, and he wrote the Communist Manifesto. He created basically his own ideology. So communism does not work. It's a failure of a system. But at the same time, you have to understand kind of Karl Marx's perspective when he lived. When the time period that he lived in, it was like really bad economic conditions for like working class people. Like people would work 6 days a week in a factory, like 12-hour shifts. They would have no breaks, and they would barely have enough money to put food on the table. And so he basically got pissed off at that, and that's where his system comes from. But what Karl Marx failed in is Karl Marx believed that capitalism could not be fixed. That's what he believed. He believed that capitalism was doomed to fail. It could not be fixed. But history has proven him wrong. History has proven him wrong that capitalism can be fixed. If you look at pretty much all first world capitalist countries, every single first world capitalist country, it's always better being a working class person in a first world capitalist country than any kind of communist country today. Always better. Working class in any first world country have way better lives than in any communist country. Who's worse, Kim Jong or Rockstar? Well, I don't know what kind of question that is, Amateur. Thank you for the super chat. Well, that I didn't know, Chase. Capitalism may not be fair, but the alternative is hell. Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And my teacher, one of my professors in college, I remember, and I'll never forget what he said, but he said one of the best things ever. It was one of the best quotes that I've ever heard. And the quote that he said, capitalism is not a perfect system. It's not a perfect system. It has problems. It has flaws. We can always improve it. But anything other than capitalism is a disaster. And that's what he said. He said capitalism is not a perfect system, but anything else that's been tried other than capitalism has always been a disaster. So that's really that's really the best way to describe capitalism, is that it's not a perfect system, but it's the best system out there. So everything else in history that has been tried other than capitalism has been a failure. Everything. Every other system that has been tried, and there have been other systems that have been tried besides communism also, and every single system has been a failure. Capitalism is the only system that has really survived. Every other system has always ended in some kind of failure and it's some kind of disaster. What's the difference between socialism and communism? Communism is there is no free market whatsoever. Communism is government total control of everything. There is no property rights. In socialist countries, you still have property rights. There is still private property. People can buy and own land. People can make money, but they are just tightly controlled and tightly regulated. We do not have a fixed version of capitalism currently. The main reason we have a better quality of life than communist countries is because we actively destabilize any country that attempts it. Oh, come on, dude, come on. Seriously, that is just, no, come on. That's like pure, no. Look, I will tell you this, about your point there. Here's what I'll say about this. Is the U.S. an imperialist country? Yes, the U.S. has done horrible imperialist things. Definitely, I will agree with you there. The U.S. has intervened in other countries and has destabilized other countries. I don't deny that. Like the U.S. has done horrible things to Libya. The U.S. has done horrible things to Iraq. There have been other countries that U.S. has destabilized. Like the CIA did a lot of coups during the Cold War. But communist countries have also destabilized other countries. The Soviet Union, for example, how many countries did the Soviet Union destabilize? They destabilized Hungary, Czechoslovakia, Poland, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Finland, Afghanistan, Georgia, Armenia, is like Kazakhstan, is how many Iran, if El Salvador, Nicaragua, Cuba, Venezuela, North Korea, Vietnam. Well, Vietnam was kind of both countries. But it was, but basically the Soviet Union has done just as much destabilization as the U.S. has done. I know the Soviet Union hasn't existed for like 30 years now, but the Soviet Union was involved in coups. They were involved in bad things. I mean, the whole Afghanistan war, the Soviet-Afghan war, started over a coup. The Soviets, Spetsnaz, assassinated the Afghanistan president. That's what started the Afghan war. Is like they literally assassinated the Afghanistan president, and they brutally invaded Hungary. They brutally invaded Czechoslovakia. They brutally invaded Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania. They annexed those countries. They made them part of the Soviet Union. They invaded Finland. So literally the Soviet Union has a history of its own imperialism and its own meddling. So just because a country is a communist country does not mean that it can't be imperialist. The Soviet Union was one of the biggest imperialist countries out there. It invaded so many countries and it intervened in so many countries' affairs. So I'm not gonna sit here and make like excuses for like American foreign policies. Like the U.S. has definitely done bad things in its history. It's intervened in other countries, but America's living standards today, the living standards that we have in America, are not because of some American intervention in other countries. Like that's communist propaganda. It's like people say, oh, the reason that people in America have like good living standards is because of colonialism and imperialism and all this. No, it's not that. It's we've developed our country, we've flourished our country, we have brought in talent from all over the world, we have opened our doors to immigration from all over the world. People have come in here, they've built businesses in America. America became the trading hub of the world. That's how America became a superpower. It wasn't through imperialism and like stealing resources from other countries. That's not how America became a rich country. And if also by that, if you take that argument that America became an imperialist country because America became rich because as an imperialist country, if you look at a country like Iceland, for example, Iceland has higher living standards than America does. Iceland has better healthcare than America. The average Icelander makes more money than the average American. So people in Iceland have a better standard of living than they do in America. And my question to you would be, what country did Iceland invade? What country did Iceland imperialize? What country did they colonize? What country's resources did they steal? What oil did they steal? They didn't steal anybody's oil. Iceland didn't invade anybody. Iceland is one of the least imperialist countries on this planet. It has one of the least imperialist histories. Like, the only imperialism that Iceland has committed was like 1,000 years ago when they were the Vikings. They were like raiding different countries. That was the only form of imperialism Iceland ever committed. They never really invaded any other country. They never did horrible things, and their living standards are better than America's living standards. So no, it's like, did Iceland build their wealth through imperialism? No. Iceland didn't build their wealth through imperialism. They did everything for their people, and they didn't have corruption. When you have corruption in a country, you are going to have poverty. Poverty, whenever you have corruption, you're going to have poverty, and you're going to have just disasters in your country. So it wasn't because of imperialism or any of that other stuff. That's just propaganda. So I'm not going to sit here and make excuses that the U.S. didn't commit imperialism. It did. But when you're saying that the only reason America is rich is because of imperialism, this is nonsense. America is rich because it attracted talent from all over the world. People came here to invest in this country. People came here, brought their families over. They built businesses. They built giant companies. That's how basically America became a very rich and successful country. It was through industrialization. It was through immigration. It was not through imperialism and conquest. You can maybe you can make the argument that some European countries today are rich because of imperialism and conquest, but you cannot make that argument for America. Would I play Ratchet and Clank? I played those games when I was a kid. I like them. Also, thank you for inspiring me to do the cosplay you do on all your videos. I'm trying to cosplay as my GTA character. I got everything I needed. I just need to make the taco mask from scratch. Oh, okay. I hope everything goes good for you, Taco. Thank you for the super chat. Common False believes that communist countries cannot be imperialist in nature. Yeah, and the thing is, though, is that it's the stupidest thing, because whenever you bring up the communists, that communist countries have committed imperialism before, what communists will always say, well, communist countries don't run on money, so they can't be imperialist. Or they will always say, like, oh, you know, when communist countries invade other countries, that's not imperialism, that's just freeing them from capitalism. That's what they will always say. That's that. And that's like the same propaganda that you can say America invades countries to spread democracy. So it's really, it's like communist countries can be just as imperialist as capitalist countries. So it's not, so I don't know how anybody can tell me that, yeah, we can't just memory hole McCarthyism. Well, McCarthyism was a bad thing. I'm not going to make excuses for McCarthyism. McCarthyism was bad. For people that don't know what McCarthyism is, McCarthyism was the House of Un-American Activities Committee. What that basically was, it was like a government organization that would label people communists. So, like, if they would investigate people and they would label people communists. Now, in America, you can't be arrested for being a communist. That's considered a First Amendment right. You can identify with any political party that you want. You can vote any way that you want. You can believe anything you want. The government can't take it away from you. But what the House of Un-American Activities Committee did to get around the First Amendment, what they did was they blacklisted people as communists. So they wouldn't arrest you for being a communist, but if somebody was accused of being a communist, what they would do is they would when you would go apply to a job, at the job, they would basically pull up your record and they would say you've been blacklisted of being a communist. They would not hire you. If you tried to get any form of credit from a bank, they would not give you a loan. They would tell you you've been blacklisted as a communist. When you try to buy a house, realtors would not sell to you. They say you've been blacklisted as a communist. So essentially, it would be destroying your life without arresting you. That's what the House of Un-American Activities Committee did. And about that is they basically blacklisted thousands of people. Like there was a lot of people that committed suicide because they were put on that list. So like they blacklisted so many people that had nothing to do with communism. So like there was like people that, like, if you were, for example, if you were against segregation, if you, for example, said that racism was wrong, you could be put on that list. They could accuse you of being a communist. If you were, like, for example, for gun rights, if you believe that everyone should have the right to own a gun, they could put you as on that list for being a communist, which I don't even know how that's supposed to work. But that they would put people on that list for ridiculous things. How McCarthyism basically ended was what happened was the Eisenhower, who was the president at that time, Eisenhower basically telling McCarthy, calm down, this is getting out of control. McCarthy basically got pissed off, and he accused Eisenhower of being a communist, the president of the United States. He accused him of being a communist. And at that point, Eisenhower said, that's it, this has gone on way too long, and he closed the entire agency down. He fired McCarthy, and he closed the whole thing down. That's basically how it ended. It ended in the 50s. But as bad as McCarthyism was, even though McCarthyism was a bad thing, it was nowhere near as bad as Stalin's purges. Stalin's purges were the worst, because under McCarthyism, the government wasn't coming in and murdering people. It wasn't coming in and taking people to forced labor camps and gulags. The Soviet Union had their own version of McCarthyism, and their version was way worse than the American version, is that if you were questioning the Soviet government at all, even if you were a loyal communist, if you just questioned Stalin at all, even if you believed in the Soviet Union completely, but you just criticized Stalin on one small little thing, you would basically be thrown into a gulag. You would be taken away by the NKVD, which were the Soviet secret police. So don't act like communist countries did not have their former secret police. Communist countries had their former secret police. They had their terror. And honestly, whenever I think of secret police, I always think of two things when I think of secret police. I think of either the Nazi Gestapo or I think of Stalin's NKVD. So whenever I hear secret police, I always think of either the Soviet NKVD or the Nazi Gestapo. So literally, the Soviets are one of the most brutal secret polices out there. So don't think that literally the Soviets did not have their own version of oppression. They did, and it was worse. So America has made mistakes throughout their history. America has done bad things. I'm not here to say they didn't do it, but America didn't build thousands of gulag camps and put millions of people in camps and kill millions of people. So America didn't do stuff like that. So you can criticize bad things that America has done. America probably shouldn't have gotten involved in the Vietnam War. We shouldn't have invaded Iraq. We shouldn't have gotten involved in Libya. Some of these wars are really stupid. Our intervention is dumb. But, if you compare America to, places like the Soviet Union, anybody who tells me that they'd rather live in the Soviet Union than America, you gotta be a crazy person if you gotta tell me that you'd rather live in the Soviet Union than America. The Soviet Union, you have no freedom, and your life is gonna be a living hell. So that's what I say is that people should be more grateful about the place they're living in. I'm not saying not to complain, but, to think that America is, this evil, evil, horrible place, it's not. It's not. There are countries that have been much worse than America throughout history. Let me see. Isn't it ironic how the government hates monopolies, yet contracts worth God knows how much exists to have exclusivity over whatever it is. Well, I think the biggest monopolies. I would say that monopolies are anti-American, and monopolies go against American capitalism. Which the American capitalism, the idea of American capitalism is that everyone competes, and it was like if you have companies constantly competing, the consumer gets the best prices. That's the whole idea of American capitalism, is that you have people come into competition, they're competing with each other, and the consumer basically decides which company they're going to be buying from, and the consumer gets the best deal because all these companies are competing. So monopolies, I would say, are anti-American because it's just the fact that it's like one company basically controlling the entire market and controlling everything. It's not a free market if you have like this one company controlling everything. And the things that the companies that I think are the biggest monopolies are real estate companies. Real estate companies that purchase up hundreds of homes. Those guys are the the biggest threat to becoming a monopoly, because some of these real estate companies are so powerful that they literally what they do, they're so powerful, they literally control like entire cities, entire towns. And in my town in the upper Midwest, where I live, there are 2 real estate companies that control huge portions of the city. They control like hundreds of homes in this one town that I live in. 2 real estate companies. And whenever I go on Zillow and I look at houses for rent in my town, most of the time I see from those 2 real estate companies. That's how many houses that they have purchased. It's just absolutely ridiculous. And these companies, they come in, they purchase houses with cash, and what happens is the average home buyer, they can't compete with that. They're going to be trying to get a mortgage, and when you do cash, it's always going to be quicker. So these giant companies are going to be purchasing up all the houses and screwing people out of getting houses for themselves. And these people are going to have to rent from these same companies because they cannot find a house to live in. So that's what I'll say, is that the biggest monopoly, I would say, are literally these real estate companies that are just purchasing up so much land. And I'm a very big free market guy. I very much like libertarian economics, but even I have to admit that needs serious regulation. Like the housing market needs some serious regulation. I'm not talking about building permits or stuff like that. I'm talking about more who can buy what. Like there should be like laws preventing like companies from like literally purchasing up so much land, like purchasing up this much land. I'm a landlord myself. I own 2 rental properties, but people like me are not the problem. I'm just a small business owner. I own 2 properties. I haven't even raised the rent of my tenants at all since I had one for 2 years. I've had another one for more than half a year at this point. I have not raised, and I don't plan on raising the rent on either of them. So, people like me are not the problem. It's more of like these large companies that are coming in and just buying up so much of the land. And if Teddy Roosevelt was alive today, sometimes I wish we could bring Teddy Roosevelt back to life. If Teddy Roosevelt was alive today, he would freak out. If he saw these houses, these real estate companies buying so much, Teddy Roosevelt would have an absolute meltdown. If he was, like, imagine if he was alive today, like, he would freak out on this if he saw these large companies buying so much land like this. But, that's it. If I was president, I would make it a federal law that if somebody does not purchase a house within a week, if average regular home buyers don't purchase a house within a week, the real estate companies can then purchase the house. So if it's not purchased within a week or maybe 2 weeks, then people can buy the house. And I would make a second law that states that the second, so they can't purchase the house within 2 weeks, and the second law would be that one company cannot control more than like 10% of the properties in like a single town. I would make like a law like that because it's just absolutely ridiculous. I will tell you though, when I in the Midwest where I live, houses are much more affordable. So they're not like they're not as overpriced like in New York. So it's easier to buy a house in cash. It's still hard, but it's much easier like compared to New York. So what I do is I have saved up like a lot of cash, and I wanted to get my second rental property. And what happened was, earlier this year when I was trying to get my second rental property, I remembered that I was looking at this one house, and I talked to my real estate agent. I was like, this house looks good. Can we take a look at it? And he tells me, we can't. I'm like, why? I'm like, the real estate company's already bought it. I'm like, what? It like the house hasn't even been up for 24 hours. Yep, real estate company bought it. I looked at another house like the week after that, and it's like, he told me, nope, it's gone. Within a day, real estate company bought it. It's like, my God. And at that point, I realized how much of a problem this is with these real estate companies is buying up houses like this. And I'm not like some crazy landlord where I'm going to own like 100 houses. I want to own like one more rental, like a third rental, and I think I'll be done at that point. It's just like a side business that I want. But I treat my tenants very fairly. I don't jack up the rent. I'm not greedy. But that's the problem with these companies, that they purchase up so much land. And I will tell you this, there was one house that I found that was 2 blocks from my apartment, and it was perfect. I loved it, and I saw the house within 1 hour of the house being up on Zillow, because I was just checking Zillow, and like that single hour it was up. And I told my real estate agent, let's go over there right now. He's like, okay, cool. We went over there, and I was like, I'm buying this house right now. Like, that's that single day. I'm like, buying this house, because if I did not buy that house that day, that real estate company would have come in and bought it later that day. It would have happened again. And the crazy thing is, I checked the street that I bought the house on, and the street that I bought the house on, that same real estate company, they literally own like 5 or 6 houses on that exact same block. That's how out of control this is. That's that one company can like control this much land. It's ridiculous. And what's happened is that those companies keep constantly calling me, like over and over again. They keep constantly calling me, hey, you want to sell us your houses? You want to sell them? Like constantly keep calling me, harassing me, and they're on different numbers over and over and over again. I keep telling them no, 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 no. Every time I tell them no, 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 and they keep calling me back. And the other day, the company called me at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I am a late sleeper. I wake up at like 11 a.m., like 10 a.m., sometimes 12 p.m. I don't like waking up at like 8 or 9 a.m. And so I get woken up at 8 a.m. I'm pissed, and it's like some person saying, hey, you want to sell your house? It's like, no. Do you want to sell your house for the next 6 months? Like, no. And I just hang up. And I will say this, is that the next time those real estate companies call me and they say, you want to sell us your house? You know what I'm going to tell them? I'm going to say, okay, yeah, I can sell you my house, $3 million. And the house is nowhere near $3 million, but I'll do that next time. And I'll say exactly, I want to see what they say. But I'll say that next time exactly to them, because this harassment is just getting ridiculous, the amount of calls that I'm getting from these companies. And they keep using different phones, so I can't block them. That's how ridiculous it is. What's your opinion, Tupac and Biggie and the murder being busted? And do you think that Diddy got them both killed? P.S. RIP, rest in peace both. I actually don't know much about that. Wait, I know Tupac was murdered in the 1990s, but I don't know much about that. And that Diddy guy, I know he did horrible things. He's been in the news a bunch, but I will be honest with you, MZG, is I don't know much about those news stories. I don't follow that stuff that much. Well, I don't think that there's like specifically like a list in Hollywood, but Hollywood is typically a very left-wing like place. Not that there's anything wrong with being left-wing, but it's like if you have any other views that are counter to them, it's gonna be very hard to work in that industry. Thank you, Mario. Isn't call harassment illegal? Sorry, I don't know the American legal laws. It depends. Some states all have different laws on it, but it's ridiculous. So that's what I'll say, is that these it's like I saw one comment earlier, like one guy basically said in the comments, like, you don't work and you let people work for you. Like one comment earlier on the stream here. It's like, no, it's like I own those 2 rental properties. Those 2 rental properties are mine. I worked my entire life to get those 2 rental properties. I worked very hard to get them. And so if those properties are mine, I rent them out to people, like, and I treat the people very fairly. And you can ask both of my tenants, is that they will say that I treat them very fairly. And, I haven't raised their rent. I don't do crap like that. I don't pull, like, stunt like that. I grew up in a rental property myself when I was a kid. And so I understand, it's important to be a good landlord, and you want to keep a good relationship with your tenants too. So not every landlord is some, greedy, scummy person. I wanted to be able to have like a side business, something that I could diversify my income with, an extra business that I could have while I'm doing YouTube. So while I'm doing YouTube, I have my rental properties that also, generate money for me too. So that it's like a great business. And yeah, and if you're if you know what you're doing as a landlord, and you're not a greedy person, being a landlord is a great business too. So it's like the problem is not the landlords that like me that own like a few houses. Like I own 2 houses. Like people like me are not the problem. I'm not the people who are jacking up like the rent, like and causing the housing crisis. The people who are causing the housing crisis are these giant large corporations that are basically buying like hundreds of homes in like one city, one town, and then what happens is you have these ridiculous zoning laws, these ridiculous construction laws, that it takes so long to build new houses, and because of that there's a scarcity for houses, and then the price of the houses and the rents skyrocket. And also the property taxes. The property taxes being really high also affects the rent. So it's all a combination of that stuff. Make a video where you troll the real estate company, make money off them. Well, the next time they call me, I might just record it, and I might make a YouTube video, and I'll be like, give me $3 million. You want the house? $3 million. That's basically what I'll say. And the house is nowhere near that. So I will literally say that next time, because they're constantly saying, you want to sell the house? You want to sell the house? And when you tell them no, it's like, you want to sell the house in the next 6 months? No. and then they call back like a week later and harass you again. So that's what I'll say about that. Well, my plan is I want to get a third rental, and when I get that third rental, I think I'll be done. I don't think I'm gonna get any more rentals after that. And what I'm gonna do at that point is I want to start a vending machine business. So when I get the third rental, I'm gonna start a vending machine business, and then have that and my rentals and my YouTube channel, and that's pretty much it for me. You know, I don't need like millions of dollars in my life. If I have like $1 million, I'll be happy for the rest of my life. I don't need like $100 million. I don't need like you know, I don't need all this crazy money. I don't need billions of dollars. You know, a few $1,000,000, I'll be happy for the rest of my life. So like I don't need all this, you know, crazy money. So that's just it. I want to build a business, you know, have a good retirement, and you know, I'm still young, I'm 30, but you know, I'm saving for the future. And you know, I want to have a relaxing retirement. You know, something that you know, I'll never have to really do much, and you know, basically just enjoy my later years. That's it. Pro, my teacher taught us today that India and the USA have both a mixed economy. Well, the US is historically a capitalist country. It still kind of is, but I would say that property taxes make it I would say property taxes are really against capitalism, because if you don't pay property taxes, the government is going to take your property, and that's what I say about property taxes. Is that I don't think they should exist. I don't think they should be a thing, because it's more like you it's like you don't own your property. It's like you're paying rent to the government. But about mixed economies, India's economy is actually much more tightly controlled than America's economy, and about India. India had a very socialist economy in the 50s and the 60s, and if India didn't have that socialist economy in the 50s and the 60s, they could have actually developed their economy a lot better, and India could have been a bigger economic superpower today. So India could have been much richer than it is today if the socialism that was in the 50s and the 60s destroyed India's economy. But I will tell you though, is don't feel bad, Ghazala, because India is on the right track right now. India is doing good. India has a lot of economic growth, and in the next few decades, India could become like an economic giant. It can become like a superpower. India is pretty much a rising superpower at this point, so don't worry. Your country will grow in the next decades. But it was just like that socialism that India had in the 50s and the 60s. It really destroyed India's economy. Who do you think would win in a fight, Arthur Morgan versus Tyson Fury? Hang on, I've heard that name before. I gotta look it up really quick here. Tyson Fury? Oh, it's a British boxer. Oh, I don't know. That I don't know. Maybe Arthur Morgan, but oh yeah, I want to visit Japan one day. Okay, so yeah, property taxes I think are just too much. They should be abolished. But I will be going here, guys. It was fun hanging out. I'm a bit hungry, so I haven't eaten, so I want to get some food to eat. But I guess I'll be going here, guys. But thank you guys for watching. If you guys enjoyed the stream, if you guys like my streams, my commentaries, do drop a like. And I will see you guys in the next one. Take care, everyone. Have a wonderful day, guys. Have a great week.